Okay, this meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak and to be in compliance with the governor's executive order, this meeting is being conducted remotely. The public is able to view this meeting via a live stream on YouTube. A link for the live stream is available and posted on our Freeholder website, which is www.ecfnj.com. Again, that's www.ecfnj.com. I would ask that those who are calling in particular for this meeting, if they can, to please keep their phone and/or device on mute unless you are speaking. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeholder Cooper.
Here.
Freeholder Graham.
Here.
Freeholder Johnson.
Here.
Freeholder Luciano. Absent. Freeholder Mercado. Absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Here.
Freeholder Sebald.
Here.
Freeholder President Gill.
Here. Okay, we're going to omit the salute to the flag since we're conducting this meeting remotely. However, would like to ask that we please take a moment of silence for two reasons. One, we ask for a moment of silence to remember Mr. George Floyd and all those who have lost their lives to police brutality, and also to keep in your thoughts and prayers all the members, all the families who have lost members of their own families due to the COVID-19 virus. Okay, thank you. I have before me certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, yes, there are two. April 15th, 2020 and April 29th, 2020.
Okay, Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments? Quick hearing or seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham to approve the transcripts. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Absent. Freeholder Mercado. Absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebald.
I'm not getting
Yes.
any sound here.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved. Mr. McInerney, or someone I heard speaking.
What's going on?
Mr. McInerney, you're not on mute.
No sound.
Frank? Mr. McInerney? Can you hear us?
Mr. President, let's move forward and hopefully I'll have someone recall Mr. McInerney.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay. Madam Clerk, let's move to the public comment session. Today's meeting is a combined conference board meeting, and we will vote on every item on the agenda. However, since we are meeting remotely, the public has had the opportunity to submit questions and comments for consideration. At this portion of the meeting, the clerk will read questions on agenda items only, into the record at this time and state the names of the constituents. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, we have a lot of public comment, and so we are going to divide the labor. And so Council Michael Polavecchio is going to start, and then he'll hand off it to me to finish. So Michael
I got it.
Polavecchio.
Thank you. Thank you. Tag team work. First comment was submitted by Han Brokeman of Fair Lawn, New Jersey regarding Resolution 52. Good afternoon. Hoping you are all healthy and safe from COVID-19. My name is Han Brokeman and I live in Fair Lawn, Bergen County. I'm incarcerating people for ICE in the Essex County Jail. I was very disappointed to see President Gill's resolution calling on ICE to release all detainees tabled this week. Freeholder Pomares wanted more information and Freeholder Mercado wanted more time, but you've had a decade as a body to consider this issue and learn about it. You've taken millions of dollars from ICE. However, the most galling and offensive comment came from Freeholder Siebold, who suggested that we might be letting out murderers and criminals. The criminalization of migrants is something that we have come to expect of the xenophobic, racist elements in the Trump administration, but not from a Freeholder board composed entirely of Democrats. With COVID-19 threatening lives, you should also know that your jail is becoming all that more wretched, unhealthy, and dangerous for everyone housed there and everyone who works there. It is your duty to speak out and demand releases. We need freeholders to stop hiding behind excuses and stop delaying. Lives are at stake. Can you understand how out of touch, incompetent, and callous you sound right now? You need 2 more weeks to consider the implications of a completely non-binding resolution. The fact is, you have been facilitating the brutality of the NJ ICE field office for far too long. It is imperative that you publicly support President Gill's resolution and the decarceration of your jail with the release of inmates, the release of all detainees. As Democrats, we also expect to hear your support for an end to ICE arrests and transfers between facilities and the termination of the ICE contract you supported. Will you take this stand for justice? Sincerely, a voter in New Jersey. The same comment was submitted by Owen Hofston, Catherine Moore Gillen, Michelle Pilon, Catherine Mayer, Don Yahoo, Amy Tong, and Claire Manius. The next comment was submitted by Anna Rosa Marks, no address given, regarding Resolution 52. Hello, my name is Anna Rosa. I'm glad to hear that you introduced a resolution to free all immigrants incarcerated under the ICE contract in Essex County, but I was disappointed to see it tabled without a vote. It was even more disappointing to hear quote unquote murders used in connection with the people in ICE detention. The criminalization of migrants is something we expect of the Trump administration, not an elected body full of Democrats. However, as long as Essex County continues to incarcerate people for ICE, we will be doing the bidding of the Trump administration and facilitating ICE's brutal enforcement activities that tear apart families and help to spread the virus. This month, the New Jersey ICE field office deported New Jersey worker Hector Garcia Mendoza, a named plaintiff in a lawsuit calling for all people being incarcerated by ICE at the for-profit Court Civic Detention Center in Elizabeth to be released. This is a continuation of a pattern of retaliatory behavior that we have witnessed for many years. ICE was punishing Hector for speaking out about the dangerously inhumane conditions under which people are being held by ICE in New Jersey. You should recognize this type of behavior. It is the same type of tactic that was used against Dave Johnson in 2014. The only thing the NJ ICE field office has learned since then is how to act even more swiftly and brutally. It was only days between Hector adding his name to that lawsuit and his deportation. His family and his attorneys still can't locate him. It doesn't help that ICE dumped him in a part of Mexico known for cartel activity, including kidnapping, forced labor, and the disappearing of people newly deported out of fear of the virus. In addition to working to pass your resolution, will you meet with John Sukaris and urge him to release all detainees in New Jersey, stop all deportations, and cease all enforcement operations? It is not hyperbole to say people's lives are depending on it. And will you work with us to end this contract and all others like it once and for all? Same comment was submitted by Sonia Marutka. Next comment was submitted by Jacqueline Brazel.
Yeah, I'm on, but I'm still not hearing anybody.
Regarding Resolution 52. Frank, can you put that on mute? Frank McInerney, can you put yourself on mute? Hello, my name is Jacqueline Braslow, and I am calling to demand that you stop incarcerating people for ICE in the Essex County Jail. I was very disappointed to see President Gill's resolution calling on ICE to release all detainees tabled this week. Freeholder Cabarrus wanted more information. Freeholder Mercado wanted more time, but you had a decade as a body to consider the issue and learn about it. You've taken tens of millions of dollars from ICE. However, the most galling and offensive comment came from Freeholder Siebold, who suggested that we might be letting out murderers and criminals. Criminalization of migrants is something that we have come to expect of the xenophobic, racist elements of the Trump administration, not a Freeholder board composed entirely of Democrats. But with COVID-19 threatening lives, you should also know that your jail is becoming all that more wretched, unhealthy, and dangerous for everyone housed there and everyone who works there. It is your duty to speak out and demand releases. We need the freeholders to stop hiding behind excuses and stop delaying. Lives are at stake. The fact is, you have been facilitating the brutality of the NJ ICE field office for far too long. It is imperative that you publicly support President Gill's resolution and the decarceration of your jail with the release of inmates, the release of all detainees. As Democrats, we also expect to hear your support for an end to ICE arrests and transfers between facilities and the termination of the ICE contract you supported. Will you take this stand for justice? I live across the Hudson in New York City, but have taken many trips into New Jersey to visit detained immigrant clients. In my former job as an immigration paralegal, I've seen firsthand the indignities of my immigrant neighbors' imprisonment in New Jersey. I'm standing up for their humanity since the elected officials in New Jersey have overwhelmingly failed to do so. Next comment was submitted by Jessica Ho, no address given, regarding Resolution 52. Hello, my name is Jessica Ho, and I am emailing to express my shock and anger that your last meeting, instead of passing a resolution calling on ICE to release detainees held in your jail, one of the members of your Board of Chosen Freeholders unjustly criminalized the people that you are incarcerating for ICE. You should know that the people you incarcerate for ICE are civil detainees. Many are detained by ICE simply for suspicion of an immigration violation. There are others who may be accused of a crime or who have completed their sentence. Either way, under our criminal justice system, they would be free to live among the community. Do you suggest that a stricter punishment should apply because of their immigration status, or do you just not believe in the rule of law? The criminalization of migrants is something we expect of the Trump administration, not an elected body full of Democrats. However, as long as Essex County continues to incarcerate people for ICE, it will be doing the bidding of the Trump administration and facilitating ICE's brutal enforcement activities that tear apart families to help the spread of the virus. With COVID-19 threatening lives, you should know that your jail is becoming even more wretched, unhealthy, and dangerous for everyone housed there and everyone who works there. It is your duty to speak out and demand releases. And after years of community pressure, at the next Freeholder meeting, you will finally consider a symbolic resolution that asks ICE to release detainees. Will you pass the resolution without further delay? From there, will you also work to decarcerate your jail during this pandemic and vote to finally create the oversight board, which the community has been demanding for years? Thanks in advance and take care. This same comment was submitted by the following individuals: Jill Fresco of Brooklyn, New York, Divya Krishna, Sarah Atlas, Tess Garbely, Emma Greer, Zach Corgalis, Sylvia Dahlhauser, Kavi Kaushik, Samantha Myers, Martha Larson of New York City, Aniela Gustin, Gabrielle Birnbaum, Eliza Jacobson of Montclair, New Jersey, Michelle Q, Lee Rose Minio, Gabby Gillespie, Jordan Beck-Von Pecos, Claire Edelman, Somerset Thompson, and Juliana Simon Fox. Next comment was submitted by Kelly Quirk of Maplewood, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 52. Dear Freeholders, at this point, more than 3 months into the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm strongly and emphatically calling on you to pass the resolution on June 10th, asking ICE to release detainees of the community. I am a Maplewood resident. I'm a member of Soma Action and the county's reliance on immigrant detention and incarceration to balance budgets. This highly symbolic resolution is necessary. With COVID-19 threatening lives, you should know that your jail is becoming even more wretched, unhealthy, and dangerous for everyone housed there and everyone who works there. As someone who runs congregate facilities, you should know that even with the best precaution and cleaning protocols, it is still incredibly high risk. While it would inhumane not to have masks, soap, and cleaning supplies available, it is simply not enough. It is your duty to speak out and demand releases. And after years of community pressure, at the next Freeholder meeting, you will finally consider a symbolic resolution that asks ICE to release detainees. Will you pass this resolution without further delay? From there, will you also work to decarcerate and drastically shrink the size of your jail during this pandemic? Thank you. The next comment was submitted by Madeline Valverde of Bloomfield, New Jersey, again regarding Resolution 52. Hello, my name is Madeline and I live in Bloomfield. I'm calling to urge the Board of Chosen Freeholders to pass its resolution to release immigrant detainees from ICE detention and terminate Essex County's contract with ICE. The same comment was also submitted by Diana Cohen of Glen Ridge, New Jersey, Julia Sterling, Andrew Romano of Glen Ridge, and Katrina Weissman of Glen Ridge. Next comment was submitted by Lee Kodosh of Glen Ridge, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 52. Hello, my name is Lee Kodosh and I live in Essex County in Glen Ridge. I'm asking that you vote to release immigrant detainees on June 10th. I believe that these integral members of our society should not be detained, but I hope that you can see how, especially at this time, it is an immediate threat to their lives and we live through a pandemic. Being detained not only proves a serious and immediate health risk, but also stops those who are detained from work in a time when work is limitedly available. Thank you. Next comment submitted by Alec Black of Glen Ridge, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 52. To the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders, my name is Alec Black and I live in Glen Ridge, New Jersey. I'm writing this to urge you to vote yes on the June 10th resolution to release all nonviolent ICE detainees due to coronavirus fears, as well as the high risk of transmission between prisoners and guards. Some have already tested positive, and considering how social distancing and adequate medical care are not available in correctional facilities, this is a violation of human rights for these inmates, many of whom are nonviolent. Additionally, though it is not on the current resolution, please terminate the contract Essex County has with ICE. Policies undertaken by the Trump administration, such as family separation and mass deportation, are antithetical to democratic and American principles. We are a nation of immigrants. Many of these quote unquote illegal immigrants are fleeing horrific situations, ranging from wars to gang violence to domestic violence, and cannot enter the country through illegal means. At the very least, they should not face severe health risks from coronavirus. Next comment submitted by Sam Louderback of Glen Ridge regarding Resolution 52. Hello, my name is Sam Louderback and I'm a resident of Glen Ridge. I'm emailing today to urge the Board of Chosen Freeholders to pass its resolution to release the nonviolent immigrant detainees from ICE detention. Since they are at great risk of contracting COVID-19 and do not have access to adequate medical care in detention, and to terminate Essex County's contract work with ICE. Thank you. Next comment submitted by Olivia Steele of Glen Ridge, New Jersey, regarding number 52. Hello, my name is Olivia Steele. I'm a resident of Glen Ridge, New Jersey. I'm emailing to urge the Board of Chosen Freeholders to pass its resolution to release immigrant detainees from ICE detention and terminate Essex County's contract with ICE. In the interest of due process and respecting human rights, it would be immoral to hand over members of local communities to ICE agents. It has been shown repeatedly that the agency is incapable of properly providing for detained people, as many detention facilities are underfunded and understaffed. These detainees are nonviolent immigrants who are at great risk of contracting coronavirus in these facilities, where they do not have access to adequate medical care. Because of these concerns, it is of the utmost importance to vote to pass the resolution that is being presented in front of the Board of Freeholders on June 10th. Next comment by Melissa Deutsch of Montclair, New Jersey. Hi, my name is Melissa Deutsch and I am a resident of Montclair, New Jersey. I'm emailing today to ask all of you to vote yes on the resolution proposed by Freeholder President Gill and Freeholders Richardson and Johnson to demand ICE release all detainees currently being held at the Essex County Jail. As you are all well aware, because of the pandemic, the jail is more dangerous than ever. Detainees cannot socially distance and do not have enough soap or PPE. By being in such close quarters, they and correctional officers are at higher risk for contracting the virus. You should also know that the people you incarcerate for ICE are civil detainees. Many are detained by ICE simply for suspicion of an immigration violation. There are others who may be accused of a crime or who may have completed their sentence. Either way, under our criminal justice system, they would be free to live among the community. Detention should not be a death sentence, but it has become one during a pandemic. Please do the right thing and vote to release the ICE detainees. Thank you. I'm Lillian Hartman. Next one. I'm Lillian Hartman from Maplewood, New Jersey, urging you to vote yes on the resolution proposed by President Freeholder Gill to release ICE detainees being held in Essex County Jail due to dangers from COVID-19. There isn't sufficient room in the jail or PPEs to provide a safe environment for these people or the officers at the jail. Furthermore, they are civil, not criminal detainees, many of whom are simply suspected of being in violation of immigration laws. None of them deserve to be exposed to the possibility of illness or death due to the pandemic. I sincerely hope you will do the right thing and release these people. Next comment from Elizabeth Callahan, no address given regarding Resolution 52. Dear Freeholders, Agenda Item 52 is the proposed resolution to demand that ICE releases every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility. I implore you to vote yes on this resolution. In addition, you must call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer our community members to other detention centers. Don't let ICE endanger our brothers and sisters and siblings in your jail. Demand that each person is set free without risk of deportation or transfer. These same comments were also submitted by Elizabeth Callahan, Chris Zobchak, Linny Sal, Francisca Hernandez, Gabby Gillespie. Next comment submitted by Christopher Canick of Maplewood, New Jersey. Dear Freeholders, Agenda Item 52 is the proposed resolution to demand that ICE release every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility. It is impossible for you in good conscience to vote anything other than yes on this resolution. Following the yes vote, you must call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer our family, friends, and community members to other detention centers. It is imperative that each person is set free from the risk of sickness without in turn facing the risk of deportation or transfer. The same comment was submitted by Rami Abdel-Jubbar. Next comment from Jennifer Rogers of Belleville. Dear Freeholders, thank you for taking the time to read my comment regarding Agenda Item 52, which has to do with the proposed resolution to demand that ICE release all people detained at the Essex County Correctional Facility. I ask that you please vote yes on this resolution. New Jersey prisons and jails have some of the highest rates of COVID-19, and this is dangerous for those being held in the Essex County Correctional Facility under ICE's jurisdiction. In addition, please demand that ICE not deport our community members or transfer them to other detention centers. This puts our community members at an even greater risk for contracting COVID-19 or possibly spreading it to others. Do this to protect the people that make Essex County great. Thank you again. Next comment from Whitney Strube of Newark, New Jersey. Dear Freeholders, I urge you to vote yes on the resolution demanding ICE release all detainees. This is a start, but by no means an end to your moral obligation to our immigrant community members. You must also stop parroting Donald Trump's rhetoric in referring to detainees in the language of criminality. All ICE is civil detention and all immigrant detention is wrong, period. This resolution is a start, but what else are you prepared to do? ICE has begun transferring people as far away as Louisiana and threatens to do more of this. For years, you've hidden behind the alibi that your contract keeps detainees close to their families, but as we can plainly see, ICE does what it wants regardless. You have taken over $100 million from ICE in the past decade, all of it dirty money, but you pledged to make amends by committing that money to bonding out those detainees for whom it's an option and providing attorneys to all those who are transferred. I'd like a written response to this question. It's not rhetorical. You cannot aid and abet Trump's deportation machine and also claim innocence. Your contract with ICE has been an act of complicity from the start, and it is not protecting detainees now. We've asked you many times, which side are you on? Next comment, my name is Jay Arena and I live in Newark, New Jersey. I'm speaking in favor of the resolution, item K52, that calls on the DHS and ICE to release all immigrant detainees, though I believe the language should be strengthened by changing, quote, promptly to, quote unquote, immediately. While the US likes to lecture other countries around the world about freedom, at home they are world's leader in denying freedom to its own inhabitants. The United States holds some 2.3 million human beings in its prisons, jails, juvenile correction centers, and so-called immigrant detention centers, concentration camps where people are held without criminal charge or trial. These numbers surpass both the per capita rate and absolute number of every country on the planet. This includes even China, which has a population more than 4 times greater. Essex County, with its sprawling quote unquote correctional facility in one of the largest ICE concentration camps in the country, is a key node in the larger US gulag system. Now, in the midst of the pandemic, the US incarceration regime, including its Essex County arm, has become a killing ground as the coronavirus rips through New Jersey's decrepit prisons, jails, and detention centers. with 84 ECCF guards, 4 civilian employees, and a numerous and vastly undercounted number of prisoners contracting the virus, according to a May 11 InsiderNewJersey.com report. Continuing to incarcerate people threatens the public health of all residents in Essex County and beyond. The last Freeholder meeting, Board President Brendan Gill introduced a resolution calling on ICE to release all immigrant detainees. Appallingly, Freeholder Siebold and Pomares objected as they squawked about releasing violent criminals. In fact, the real criminality is that ICE collaborators like Siebold and Pomares and the entire Democratic Party-run county government, who herd immigrants all facing civil charges into a concentration camp as the coronavirus sweeps through their filthy facility. It is imperative that the Freeholders urge ICE to release everyone immediately, because they've been telling detainees that they will be transferring everyone by July 13th. Passing this resolution is just one small part of what needs to be done to keep families from being separated and preventing even more blood accumulating on your hands. Next comment from Ashley Puck, no address. Dear Essex County Freeholders, I urge you to support the resolution demanding ICE release all detainees currently held in the Essex County Correctional Facility. It is imperative that you, as representatives of the people, urge ICE to release its detainees as soon as possible, because they have been told that they will be transferring them by July 13th to facilities as far as Louisiana. Passing this resolution is just one small part of what needs to be done to keep families from being separated. It's horrific enough that these people have to suffer the indignity of detainment, but when they are law-abiding and eager to contribute to our community, we let them down again and again by our collaboration with ICE. It's time to end this contract, and a start would be to commit to preventing any transfers from occurring. Immigrants deserve our support, especially in such divisive time. Don't fail them now. Thank you for your time. Next comment from Valerie K. Laidline of South Orange. Dear Essex County Freeholders, agenda item 52 is the proposed resolution to demand that ICE release every detained person at the Essex County Correctional Facility. Having served as volunteer visitor through First Friends of New Jersey, New York, I've become acquainted with many detainees over the last few years. In each person I visited, I see a resourceful, energetic, courageous individual seeking to make a better life for himself, just as my ancestors and many of yours did generations before. Yet, in our country, instead of supporting them or even allowing them freedom until their case is heard in court, we have incarcerated them. This is unjust, for the individual often disrupts families and ultimately costs us as taxpayers. Moreover, in this time of a global COVID-19 pandemic, this is inhumane, as it places these individuals at the serious health risk presented by a congregate living facility with insufficient protections, inadequate medical care, and disregard for their human rights. We as a country are better than this. I ask that you, as our freeholders, recognize these factors and vote yes on this resolution. Moreover, I implore you to call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer these community members to other detention centers. Do not let ICE endanger our brothers and sisters and siblings in your jails. Demand that each person is set free without risk of deportation or transfer. Thank you. Dear Essex County Freeholders, my name is Vegas Langlois, and I am a student doctor at the Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine in Nutley. I urge you to support the resolution demanding ICE release all detainees. This is a public health emergency, as 70% of ICE detainees who have been tested for COVID tested positive, and there have been several severe cases in NJ detention centers. Referring to immigrants as rapists and murderers is something that we expect of Trump, not a governing body made up entirely of Democrats. Whether you used the language or not, you said nothing when others did. It is imperative that the Freeholders urge ICE to release everyone as soon as possible, because they have been telling detainees that they will be transferring everyone by July 13th. Passing this resolution is just one small part of what needs to be done to keep families from being separated. Next comment from Nancy Tayani of Glen Ridge, New Jersey. Dear Freeholders, agenda item 52 is the proposed resolution to demand that ICE releases every detained person at the Essex County Correctional Facility. I implore you to vote yes on this resolution. In addition, you must call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer our community members to other detention centers. Don't let ICE endanger our brothers and sisters and siblings in your jail. Demand that each person is set free without risk of deportation or transfer. Thank you. Next, from Sasha Hamad of Maplewood. Hello, please vote yes on the resolution demanding ICE release all detainees. Passing this resolution is the least you can do to show your support for human rights of immigrants. Our immigration system needlessly rips families apart, and the need to release everyone in ICE custody is more important than ever to protect public health. Community groups recommend releasing detainees in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in crowded facilities. Do the right thing and take this small step toward a humane immigration system. Thank you. Next, my name is Link Bella Hughes, and I live at 25 Vaughan Drive in Newark. In response to agenda item K52, I urge all freeholders to vote yes. I also reaffirm the call to freeholders that the ICE contract needs immediate abolition. Clarify what Gill's resolution does and doesn't do, and toward knowing what we need to prepare for moving forward, I submit these questions for formal responses from the board. 1, is Gill's resolution to release detainees the required notification of intent to ICE, which the contract needs in order to be ended? 2, if not, why can't temporary release be transformed into permanent release? 3, do you believe Essex County government has any structural power to collectively negotiate with ICE so family reunification can successfully occur upon the contract's abolition? Please explain your belief in this. I appreciate you all taking the time to put serious thought into answers to these pressing questions. I look forward to receiving those answers in writing. Next, my name is Jason Bohm. I am a resident of Stanhope. However, I both work and go to Rutgers in Newark. As such, I am very aware of the gross hypocrisy of this political body as it concerns the welfare of our immigrant community. In short, I demand that this body vote yes on agenda item number 52 and finally break Essex County's unethical and greed-driven association with the proto-fascist organization known as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. It is this continued relationship with ICE that allows for the perception that members of this political body are Democrats in name only. And how could anyone be blamed for such assumptions when these reactionary and racist policies rooted in the monetized trade of human flesh are the current politics of Essex County Freeholders Board? To be even more concise, stop acting like fascists, freedom and justice for all. Next comment from Tamar Shatner El Malay, no address given. Dear Freeholders, I am writing regarding agenda number 52 for today's meeting, which is the resolution demanding that ICE releases every detained person at the Essex County Correctional Facility. Please vote yes on this resolution as an act of humanity. Further, please let ICE know that it cannot simply deport or transfer our community members to other detention centers. They need to be released back into the community in a safe manner. During this pandemic, there is a genuine humanitarian crisis in leaving detainees in conditions that will lead to their deaths. Please vote with your conscience today. Next, from Kristen Shea of Verona. Hello, I urge you support the resolution demanding that ICE release all detainees from the ECCF. It's imperative that the freeholders demand ICE release detainees so they won't be transferred out of state away from their families and the immigrant detention industrial complex in Essex County. Madam Clerk, do you want to step in here?
Yes, we're at Alana Horowitz Friedman.
That's right.
Madam Clerk, how many just total more do we have left?
We have about maybe 20 more.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for, this is Alana Horowitz Friedman. Thank you for allowing me to send in public comment. I usually don't offer public comments, but I feel so strongly about agenda item 52 that I was compelled to write one. I will keep it brief. As freeholders of Essex County, it is your responsibility to do what is best for the community, and that includes the people who are detained at Essex County Correctional Facility. It also includes responding to the wishes of your constituents who have been calling and emailing for months to express concern over the humanity and incarceration people of this during this pandemic. Please vote yes on agenda item 52 to release all people at the Essex County facility. It is also imperative that the board calls on ICE to ensure that detainees are not simply transferred to other facilities, but they must be released into the community or into communities supervision programs if necessary. Please do the right thing and vote yes on agenda item 52. It is the least this board can do to stand with the immigrant community. The next comment is from Nate Hutchison, no address given. Hello, I'm writing to demand that the Essex County freeholders vote in favor of the resolution granting the release of all ECCF detainees currently detained due to their immigration status. I also urge you to end the ICE contract and publicly apologize for ever collaborating with that fascist agency. Please do not uh, uh, please do the absolute bare minimum that the basic human decency requires. The next comment is from Matt Smith of New Brunswick. I urge you to vote yes on the resolution 52 for ICE to release all detainees. The coronavirus pandemic creates new urgency in the already urgent case to uphold human rights in Newark and Essex County by releasing all immigrant detainees and ending the county's unjust and immoral contract to profit off Trump's deportation agenda. Thank you. The next comment is from Jake Efros. No address given. Dear freeholders, today you will be voting on a resolution which demands ICE release everyone it's incarcerating at Essex County Correctional Facility. As a constituent of yours, I urge you to vote yes. This is merely one of the necessary steps you all have to take towards achieving some semblance of justice in our community. You must also call on your colleagues in nearby counties to end ICE detention there. And you must work to ensure that no person released from ICE detention is simply transferred to another facility or deported out of the country. Anticipating your response, well, what can we do? We're only freeholders. I would like to mention that family members of ICE detainees, formerly detained people themselves, and immigrant justice activists have all worked tirelessly for decades, protesting the supreme ethical disaster of warehousing people based on their immigration status. We have worked to get all your attention, to educate you all, and to persuade you all. All this we've done without the political position that each of you have the enormous privilege of occupying. Next time you think, well, what can we do? Please try and expand your imagination slightly and realize that you do have clout, influence, and the capacity to pressure others in the political system to abolish immigration detention, not only here in Essex, but across New Jersey and throughout the country. Or you can choose to limit your imagination and continue to say and do nothing and remain complicit. Good luck in going to sleep tonight. Next comment is from Mary Rizzo of Newark, New Jersey, regarding Resolution 52. My name is Mary Rizzo. I'm a resident of Newark, New Jersey. I am commenting on the agenda item 52, a resolution urging ICE to release detainees from Essex County Correctional Facility. I've appeared before this body many times advocating for an end to our county's contract with ICE. I believe this contract is immoral and no county should fund itself through the incarceration of its people. Until that happens, though, it is imperative that you vote yes on this resolution. Northern New Jersey is one of the epicenters of COVID-19. A jail is feeding ground for the virus. It's impossible for detainees to socially distance. It's also dangerous for the correctional officers working inside. We've seen other places like El Paso, Texas, pass resolutions like this one. If they can do it in El Paso, you can do it here in the bluest county in a blue state. Over the last several weeks, you've gotten dozens of calls and emails from people who want you to get out of the immigration, detention, and incarceration business. Listen to your constituents. During a public health crisis, this resolution is the right thing to do. Please vote yes. The next comment is from Sally Jane Gellert of Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. It is very important that you pass this resolution, agenda item K52. It is non-binding. It does not require you to do anything further. It is simply a statement of your concern, an acknowledgement that ICE is able to release its prisoners at any time and should, especially in this pandemic. It is a request for ICE to do the right thing to protect the public health and the interests of our shared humanity. If you can't make such a symbolic gesture, then all your comments about your disapproval of Trump policies ring hollow. If you cannot even make a symbolic statement, please stop saying you support immigrants. A few points. Some of you have expressed concern about ICE prisoners possibly having criminal records. This is true for some, but not for all. But even those with a criminal history either have served their time or would have been out of prison waiting a trial. They've been held by a system that discriminates against people because of the country in which they were born. This is not equal justice for all, but equal treatment under, and not equal treatment under the law. We are not surprised when Trump refers to immigrants as rapists and murderers. It is very different and disturbing thing to hear that from members of a governing body that is made up of entirely of Democrats who say that they repudiate his policies. Although not everyone used that language, every one of you sat silent when your colleagues did. You often talk about the need to keep families from being separated. That makes it imperative to pass this resolution today. ICE has been telling detainees that they will be transferring everyone by July 13th. Passing this resolution is just one small part of what needs to be done to keep families together. Already in the last few weeks, ICE has been transferring detainees as far away as Louisiana. I implore you to pass agenda item K52 without any further delay. The next comment is from Umar Hussein. No address was given. Hi, I'm asking that the freeholders support the resolution demanding ICE release all detainees. The continued detention of immigrants is morally unconscionable, and the freeholders' continued complicity is an absolute disgrace. The next comment is from Andra Okowski. No address given. My name is Andra, and I'm writing in regards to agenda item 52, the proposed resolution to demand ICE releases every detained person in Essex County Correctional Facility. I strongly advise each and every one of you to vote yes on this resolution. These people have families and they belong with them. In addition, you must call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer members of our community to other detention centers. Please see it in your own heart not to let ICE endanger our brothers and sisters and siblings in your jail. Demand that each person being held in captivity is set free without risk of deportation and or transfers. Thank you for addressing this present issue in our community. The next comment is from Katie Singer of Milburn. On June 1st, President Brendan Gill, along with so many other local leaders, lamented the murder of George Floyd. He was quoted as saying, in part, unfortunately, a great majority of people in this country reviewed George Floyd, a Black man, as different. Mr. Floyd was not different. He was a father, a brother, a neighbor. He is all of us. The sooner we realize that as a nation, that the death of a Black man is just as tragic as the death of any person, we can begin the healing process that will unite us and bring about an understanding that all life is precious. It's so easy to cast our gaze elsewhere and ignoring what is right in front of us. Immigrants who are detained at the Elizabeth Detention Center and the Essex County Correctional Facility are also fathers, brothers, and neighbors. The proposed resolution calls for the release of those detained. Symbolic as it is a step in the direction of recognizing the preciousness of their lives. If the board cannot agree today to move this incredible mile action forward, it will show the same complete lack of humanity that Brendan Gill said was evident in the action of those Minneapolis police. You don't have to literally kneel on the neck of someone to be responsible for their death. The next comment is from Jake Mariani. No address given. Hello, I urge you to support the resolution demanding ICE release all detainees. This comment was also submitted by David Blanchard of New Providence, New Jersey, Tina Marie Unsoon, no address given, and Sam Bolognese, no address given. The next comment is from Aislinn Black, no address given, regarding resolution 52. Dear freeholders, agenda item 52 is the proposed resolution to demand that ICE releases every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility. I implore you to vote yes on this resolution. COVID is still a risk in our state, and especially in so large group setting like ICE detention. Please call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer our community members to other detention centers. This is a matter of public health as well as justice. Don't let ICE endanger our brothers and sisters and siblings in your jail. Demand that each person is set free without risk of deportation or transfer. Thank you. The next email is from Ed Coleman, no address giving. regarding Resolution 52. I urge you to vote in support of the resolution demanding that ICE release all detainees. This is a non-binding resolution. After years of allowing Essex County to profit from the misery and mistreatment of our neighbors, voting yes is literally the least you can do. The next comment is from Linda Blatnick of Cliffside Park, New Jersey. Please approve item 52 to support the release of immigrants who are detained because they are immigrants from the Essex County Jail. Almost all immigrants are detained for the sole reason that they are immigrants, not criminals. Many have been detained through a racist agenda which selected them by boarding buses, making arrests at the time of employment and places where they may gather. ICE offers and often do identify themselves. ICE officers often do not identify themselves. They do not have a judicial warrant. They ask for papers on the basis of how a person looks. They do not inform immigrants of their rights because to ICE, they have no rights. Say yes to Resolution 52 and stand against racism and the detention of these immigrants. The next comment is from Judy Manton of Tenafly, New Jersey. It is very important for you to pass this resolution, agenda item 52. It is non-binding and does not require you to do anything further. It is a simple statement of your concern and acknowledgement that ICE is able to release its prisoners and every time and should, especially in this pandemic. It is a request for ICE to do the right thing to protect the public health and the interests of our shared humanity. If you can make even a symbolic gesture, then all the comments about your disapproval of Trump policies ring hollow. You cannot even make a symbolic statement. Please stop saying you support immigrants. A few important points. Some of you expressed concern about ICE prisoners possibly having criminal records. This is true for some, but not all. Even those with a criminal history has even served their time and will be out of prison. They are held by a system that discriminates against people because of their country in which they're born. This is not equal justice for all, not equal treatment under the law. We are not surprised when Trump refers to immigrants as rapists and murderers. It's very different and disturbing thing to hear that from members of this governing body made up entirely of Democrats who say they repudiate his policies. Although not everyone used that language, everyone of you sat silent when your colleague did. You often talk about the need to help families from being separated. That makes it imperative to pass this resolution today. ICE has been telling detainees that they will be transferring everyone by July 13th. Passing this resolution is just one small part of what needs to be done to keep families together. Already in the last few weeks, ICE has been transferring detainees to as far away as Louisiana. I implore you to pass Resolution 52 without any delay. The next comment is from Nicole Bivnick, no address given. Dear freeholders, during today's meeting, you'll be voting on agenda item 52, the proposed resolution to demand that ICE detainees release every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility. I implore you to vote yes on this resolution. In addition, I'm concerned that these detainees will be transferred to other facilities. It is not only inhumane to transfer these people far away from their family and lawyers, it is bad for public health. Please call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer our community members to other detention centers. Don't let ICE endanger our neighbors who are currently reside in your jail. Demand that each person is released to the community without risk of deportation or transfer. The next comment is from Gary Foreman of South Orange, New Jersey. Dear freeholders, I urge you to vote yes on agenda item 52, which calls for ICE to release every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility. What's more, please call upon ICE to not simply deport or transfer these detained people to other detention centers. This would be wrong from a moral and public health standpoint. Set them free. Next comment is from Jennifer Lara, no address given. I demand you all vote yes on agenda item 52 so ICE will finally release all detainees. It is inhumane to keep people, especially children, in those living conditions, and nobody should be separated from their parents or children, especially as we face a global pandemic. The next comment is from Juliana Trapani, no address giving. Agenda item 52 is the proposed resolution to demand that the ICE releases every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility. I implore you to vote yes on this resolution. In addition, you must call on ICE to not simply deport or transfer our community members to other detention centers. Don't let ICE endanger our brothers and sisters and siblings in your jail. Demand that each person is set free without risk of deportation or transfer. Thank you. This comment was also submitted by Emma Christ. No address given. The next comment is from Ken Feinlip of South Orange regarding Resolution 52. I implore you to vote yes on Resolution 52 to demand that ICE releases every detained person at Essex County Correctional Facility and not deport or transfer these people to other detention centers. Thank you. The next comment is from Kathy O'Leary of PAX, Christie, New Jersey. Dear Freeholders board members, I will start as I usually do. There will be no justice until you end the contract with ICE, until all immigrant detainees are free, and until you stop seeing people in your custody as units from which revenue is derived rather than as children of God. I thought that I could not be more disheartened after hearing members of this board express they had little knowledge of who they are incarcerating for ICE and how they got there. I thought that we had bottomed out when immigrants were being painted as violent and even as murderers by your longest serving member, while the rest of you remain silent. It seems I was wrong, as now you have incorporated language to guard against the release of immigrants that you characterize as violent, even though you acknowledge that you really have no idea who you're incarcerating. Need anyone remind you that this resolution is completely non-binding? You're guarding against no actual action of any kind by modifying the language. What you're doing is perpetuating the racial trope of the good immigrants and the bad immigrant. You are reinforcing an ideological construction that allows for people to be thrown in jail at the say-so of ICE. If they are incarcerated in your jail, they must be one of the bad ones, right? If that weren't bad enough, you are relying on what ICE is telling you. The same agency that is indifferent to the sexual abuse of thousands of children in its custody and the at least 7 children who have died in detention. It is really important that you actually do something right now. It's not just because of the pandemic, but also because ICE is telling immigrants in your jail that they will all be transferred by July 13th. Last week, 10 people were transferred to Louisiana. You always claim to be concerned about keeping families close. This has been one of your main twisted reasons for maintaining this awful contract. Some have chosen to describe the resolution a feeble attempt at showing even the most basic support for immigrants in your community. We, myself included, have also said that you incarcerate them for money. Members of the board have called it a business, as if the money justified your perpetuation of the systemic racism inherited in the immigration detention system, and your participation in the dehumanization of thousands upon thousands of people who have passed through the ICE detention in your jail. Excuse me, can you please mute? In the thousands upon thousands of people who have passed through ICE detention in your jail over a decade. However, after hearing the discussion about this resolution at the last meeting, I have to admit that I was wrong. That discussion revealed your active and willing participation in this racist system. It has been revealed that some of your members at least believe in the racist ideology that immigrants should receive harsher punishment than anyone else. It has revealed that the rest of the members of your board are unwilling to stand up even in this moment of national upheaval over race and racism against insensitive and divisive and dehumanizing language. Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You've shown us who you are. Our mistake was not believing you the first time. Go ahead and pass your resolution, but please do not think it does anything for anyone. You will be participating in the system that incarcerates people, denies due process, and tears them from their family members based on race and national origin. Now we know at least that some of you agree with the hateful reasons that perpetuate it. I have to thank you for showing me and all of us who you are. The next comment is from Carl Schwartz of Newark, New Jersey. My name is Carl Schwartz. I live in Newark, and while I support the resolution that calls on the DHS and ICE to release all immigrant detainees, I still view the Freeholders action as mainly symbolic and having little effect on our immigrant brothers and sisters who are so cruelly imprisoned in our county. Nobody who was locked inside a horrific ICE concentration camp in Essex County cares about the kind of words of elected officials on the outside if these politicians are not doing everything in their power to free every detainee. When history books are written about COVID, the Essex County Freeholder and Governor Murphy will be noted for the shameful and inadequate response to the public health crisis inside our immigrant detention centers. Free them all and free them all now. Everything else, anything less is murder. The next comment comes from Jennifer Rovett. No address given. Hello, my name is Jennifer, and I'm writing to you in regards to item 52. The people who have been detained are a part of our community. They are our neighbors. They work at local businesses. They are our friends. They help keep our economy going. I'm urging you, please, to vote yes on this resolution. Please stop deporting our community members. You also cannot vote yes and then have ICE transfer our community members to other detention centers. Each person should be set free without a future risk of deportation. These people are just like us. They are trying to give the best to themselves and their families. Do not take this away from them. Thank you. The next comment is from Libby Klein, no address given. Dear Essex County Freeholders, I have to stop right now. We need someone to mute their mic, please. Please mute your mic. Dear Essex County Freeholders, I'm waiting to urge you to pass the agenda item 52. This is a non-binding resolution that simply makes your statement of your concern, acknowledges that ICE is able to release its prisoners at any time, and insists that ICE do the right thing to protect the public health in the interest of our shared humanity. You often talk about the need to help your families from being separated. That makes it imperative to pass this resolution today. ICE has been telling detainees that they will be transferring everyone by July 13th. Passing this resolution is just one of the small parts that needs to be done to keep families together. Already in the last few weeks, ICE has been transferring detainees to far away as Louisiana. I implore you to pass agenda item 52 without any further delay. Libby Klein. The next comment is from Ami Kuchali-Ua. And I believe this is a statement from ACLU. Michael, do you want to read the ACL statement? And then I'll read the last comment from. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that. Sure. Statement in support of Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders resolution calling for the release of people in
Mr.
immigration.
Palavecchio? Mr.
Yes.
Palavecchio? The ACLU statement, there we go, a couple times, is in support of the resolution is quite lengthy. I think we can make an exception that there's no objection from the board to read it into the record at a later time and just let the record reflect that the ACLU has submitted a statement in support of the resolution to be passed.
Would you like me to take roll call, Mr. President?
Please, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Here.
Freeholder Graham.
We can go see the equipment too. Take care, Elvin.
Freeholder Graham.
Those will be posted at 6, is that okay?
Freeholder Johnson.
They posted up?
Here.
Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Here.
Freeholder Sebald. Freeholder Sebald, you're on mute. Freeholder Siebel, you're on mute.
She doesn't have her headset in yet, Deborah, that she can't hear.
I'm here.
Freeholder President Gill.
Here.
Mr. President, if I may, through you, I'd just like to remind everyone, please mute your phone if you're not speaking. We keep having background noise interrupting the meeting. Thank you.
Just through you, Mr. President, Madam Clerk, you skipped me. I am here.
Oh, Freeholder Vice President Richardson, I apologize. And for the record, Mr. President, he is here.
Freeholder Graham appears to be here as well.
All right, Mr. President, may I make an announcement?
Sure.
For everyone who wants to see this meeting live stream, they can also go to Facebook. It is up on Facebook at this time.
Okay.
Mr. President, I have just one more name and public comment, and then we would have completed public comment. Shall I continue?
Please.
The last comment is from Matt Dragon of West Orange regarding items, resolutions 1 through 8, as well as resolutions 52 and 53. A video calling for the release and not redistribution, but the release of civil ICE detainees facing no criminal charges is another small step. It is important to note this means that everyone detained by ICE on civil charges in ECCF, because if they're facing criminal charges, they wouldn't be detained by ICE on civil charges. But we call upon you to do more, commit to community review and drafting the use and drafting the use of, but we call upon you to do more, to community review and drafting the use of policies for the sheriff corrections officer, commit to decriminalizing poverty at the county level, but also by using your voice to lobby at the state level, to lobby the county prosecutor to refuse to prosecute those acts until the laws can be changed. Defund the sheriff's office and funding to the municipal police forces by shrinking their scope and redirecting that money to social services, homelessness, outreach, community groups, youth programming, and so much more, all with the goal of limiting people's exposure to the police state and making their neighborhoods feel so much more like mine, where the police are not an occupying force. Those are all the public comments. As is our policy, all of these emails and comments will be entered into the record, and a written response will be sent out to all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, please ensure that this information is relayed to the administration for appropriate response. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading? Madam Clerk.
Can you repeat that again, Mr. President?
Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions on second reading and public hearing this afternoon?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we're now going to move to resolutions number 1 through 8, which are the advice and consent nominations for appointments to the Independent Essex County Correctional Facility Civilian Task Force. I'm going to reserve my comments until we remove through the members who have been presented to us tonight. And at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting to Mr. Jackson.
Okay, I apologize for that. Again, good afternoon, Mr. President, the Vice President, members of the board. We are going to proceed with the nominations for the task force. This is really a historic day for the county and for the board and for the administration. I'd like to introduce, my honor to introduce Governor McGreevy, who is the chairperson of the task force, for some comments.
Thank you very much, Robert, and to our freeholder director and to the freeholders and to Madam Clerk. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. We had a very full and invigorating candidate process, and we were really quite pleased with the level of interest and enthusiasm from the community. We tried to make sure that we had balanced both in terms of areas of expertise regarding the law, healthcare, detainee information status, and we think we have comprised a very thoughtful, insightful group of individuals. So, Mr. Freeholder Director, I just want to say thank you for your passion on this issue, and also to Chief of Staff Phil Elijah. I'd also like to express our gratitude. In these intervening months, Phil has invited us all in a very transparent process, enabling us to have total, direct, honest conversations with the medical staff, both on the ICE side and on the corrections, also on the correction side. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to the Freeholder Board and to the administration. I think it's a good start. And lastly, we're also going to continue to engage those individuals who are not selected. And it's been a really difficult process because we attempted to achieve some level of balance, both in terms of diversity and in terms of the experience of those represented on the task force, as well as their subject matter expertise. We had a number of great candidates, bluntly, that we couldn't select. So we are going to, and I just would like the Freeholder Chair to also know this, we're going to invite all of the candidates who expressed an interest to join with us at the Payne Vocational Center in the coming weeks as we begin to outline this process. And lastly, I would also like to express my appreciation to the judge. He's been tremendous every step of the way, not only in outlining the legal processes, but being exceptionally hands-on. The amount of time that he's afforded this process, the dedication, and the legal insight, I think it's made for a immeasurably better process. So again, I just want to say thank you to all those who've been selected, but I would just like to emphasize all those who asked to be selected, all those who asked to be considered. The length and breadth and depth of their experience is going to be so critically important in this process. And as I said, we're going to be inviting them to join with me at the Payne Vocational School so that we begin to go through this process of thinking and outlining and discerning what our agenda will be in the coming months. And with that, I'd like to refer it back to Freeholder Director Gill.
Okay. Thank you, Governor, and thank you for your willingness to serve on this committee or on this task force. I don't think we could have a better candidate to help lead the board that's been assembled today, and that we're going to hear from each of the nominees shortly. I think it's important to note, and I think the timing of these appointments, I think, are particularly appropriate in the sense that this task force, and I always continue to use the word independent because I think that word is critical. We know and important. We know and we know why we had to get to this point. And I think that the county's response, both the administration, the Freeholder Board, and our advocates, the ACLU and others who worked to put this together, there is no other independent civilian task force in the country that exists like this unless there was a consent decree, through the courts. And I think that's important to note. So my expectation for this board is for it to be real. It's been given immense power to investigate, and not only investigate, but to hopefully be one more tool for us to improve not just our ICE detainees, because I think it's important to note that this board has oversight over the entire detention facility. So it's the detainees, it's our employees and corrections officers who work there. It's it's the families. It touches really on everything, and has broad power to do so. So Governor, so I look forward to what this board is going to do. And looks forward to allowing them to get to work. I want to also just say to the administration in terms of their, I know Phil is on the call, that the quality of the quality of the individuals that you brought to the board tonight, the process, the very transparent process in terms of reaching out to different communities in order to produce candidates. I think we had 40 plus people who applied to serve on this board. So I'm glad to hear you, Governor, say that the people who weren't selected are going to be touched as well to find to try to figure out if we can find ways to keep them engaged and involved in what the work of this board is going to do. And I'm also proud to say that I believe that the ordinance as it was laid out with very specific categories has produced some really outstanding candidates within those categories. So I'm happy, and we're looking forward to supporting all of the nominees that have been put forth, today before us this afternoon, which is quickly turning into this evening. So so we'll. With that, Mr. Jackson, I will go to resolution number 1, and we will hear from our nominees.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first nominee is Ms. Rosa Santana, a representative from a recognized detainee advocacy group, and she is here to engage the board. Welcome, Ms. Santana.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity. I really appreciate the nomination. And, I have been doing this work for almost 10 years, advocating for immigrants and detainees in detention, and this civilian task force is needed now more than ever. We are aware of the different events of police brutality against Black communities, and therefore we need to make sure that those who abuse their power are held accountable. My main goal is and will always be to abolish ICE, to end mass incarceration, and defund the police. But we know that the systems are still happening, and while this is still happening, all the systems intertwine and they criminalize Black and Brown communities. But while the system still exists, I will do everything in my power to make sure the detained friends and incarcerated friends are treated with respect, with dignity, and that no human right violations are happening in any of the facilities. It is my civic and moral duty to advocate on behalf of my friends in detention in my community. I know this is a very challenging task, but I do commit to give it my all. I also believe that, hearing the public comments as well, there's a lot of misconception of who an immigrant is. And I could tell you that, I am an immigrant. I came here when I was 14 years old, and we need to stop categorizing or talking about people in detention as criminals. Again, they're there for civic offense, and we cannot call them rapists and this is like what we have been hearing for the current administration, and we need to educate on who really is in detention. And anyone who's undocumented can end up in immigration detention. Don't necessarily have to have a criminal background. So I am, again, I am thankful for this nomination. I will be, if you know, this passes, I will give it my all. And, you know, I hope that I have the support. And also I feel that I am not here just Rosa. There's a lot of immigration advocacy organizations that work and that we work closely with, and I also have their support. So again, thank you. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Freeholders,
President Gill,
Freeholder Johnson.
through you. Mrs. Santana, it is a pleasure to have you on this task force. From what you guys have been hearing, all the other members of the task force during the course of this meeting today, most of the things that you are hearing was about the immigration. I am one that's a very heavy stickler on the Black and brown community that's in the regular jail that have been there on some things that are really not indictable, like tickets on their cars, like child support, that we need to make sure that they are taken care of correctly and released upon those things. So I am very, very for this task force. I've read all the resumes. I went through them, and I see that it is a good mix. And I'm hoping that this task force can help us solve some of those problems and solutions that we've been having for many years in our Essex County Correctional Facility. So I thank you, and I'm hoping that just from what you've heard today, it doesn't just put you in a one-track mind, that it puts everybody in a full, as Governor McGreevy said, for the whole situation. And I want to thank you all for taking the time and the energy to come on board.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Freeholder.
May I say something? May I say something? Yeah, I'd like to say something about the whole process before we listen to all the others. First of all, I'd like to thank Judge Linares and Governor McGreevy for all the hard work they've done putting this task force together. I'd also like to thank Bill Elijah and the entire administration for all this work. This will be the first task force, the first civilian task force in New Jersey, and I believe it will be the first in the country. So that makes me very proud that Essex County is so unique. And as Freeholder Johnson said, I've read through all the resumes, and we have 8 exceptional people who will be on this task force. So I'm very pleased that we are moving in the right direction for what is correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Stevo. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank you, Ms. Santana, for being here tonight, and also for your willingness to serve. Your credentials are impeccable, and again, just would reiterate that we're lucky to have you to be able to be a part of the task force. Freeholders, I have a motion from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Mr. Jackson, moving to resolution number 2.
Thank you. Second, is also a recognized inmate advocacy individual, recognized expert in their field, Mr. Marshall Roundtree. Mr. Roundtree.
You're muted, sir.
You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Roundtree.
Got it. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I thank everyone for the opportunity. Thank you, Governor. Breezy, thank you to the freeholders and everyone. I'm very thankful to be a part or to be nominated Brilliant Task Force. I think I've been leading up to this point, qualifying myself unknowingly for several years. I'm proud to, for several reasons. I'm proud to potentially be a part of statewide being on the forefront of a lot of the criminal justice reform that we're seeing. And we have been for some time, whether it was the death penalty, abolishing the death penalty, the elimination of such, the solitary confinement bill that was passed, and several other the criminal justice reform. So I see this kind of in alignment with our leadership throughout the years. So I'm proud for that reason. And we also lead for some reasons that I'm not so proud of. Some of it being highlighted recently, like our disparities within our system, the racial disparities, the poverty disparities. But I'm also proud to be a part of that healing process. I think people, this task force itself is an example. Even before some of these events came, this wasn't something that had to be forced upon by decree, or this was something that was initiated from a good place. And I think I'm proud of it for that reason. So I think that we could be on the forefront of a lot of the healing that we all know that needs to be done. As a nominee, and if I'm, nominated, I hope to earn everyone's respect so that some of my commitment and dedication can be, realized throughout the years. I consider myself someone who's had just about every experience throughout the gamut. I was a youth, a disenfranchised youth from the city of Newark, New Jersey, with limited opportunities in a sense, and made bad decisions, and then I was found myself incarcerated. So I've also dealt firsthand with the lived experience of some of the inequalities or the inequities that we speak about in the justice system, and I educated myself and enough to work in that area as a paralegal, so they gave me the opportunity to do some of the work that we'll be doing now, is working with the corrections officers, working with the administrative staff, working with the advocates and those in place while I was incarcerated, building those relationships and understanding how the nature of that works. And also getting out and working as an advocate in the community, working in the area of reentry. I'm a behavioral health service provider, as well as somebody that's working in legislative areas. So I'm saying all that just to say that I'm looking forward to using all of those lived experiences as an asset to work in the areas that we need to work in. Very proud and happy for the opportunity.
Thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments?
Through you, Mr. President. Go ahead, Freeholder Johnson.
I just want to welcome you, Marshall Roundtree, on board. I read your background, and I kind of got a feeling of hope that you will be a savior to a lot. So thank you for volunteering and putting your name up to be one.
Thank you very much, Rufus, Mr. Johnson.
Through you, Mr. President.
So
yeah, I too want to welcome all of the nominees, and everybody here is a great mix of people. But I know Marshall as Justice Roundtree. I met him several years ago. Very active in the community of reentry and doing his poetry night, bringing the community out to various events that he sponsors. And it's always a broad mix of folks. But you talk about somebody who has made the transition and turned his life around to become a role model actually in the community. So he's really turned his life around and really has touched a lot of people, very well known. So it's a pleasure to have him. And he's someone who knows both sides because he's actually been in there. So he doesn't just know theory, he knows practicality. He knows exactly how the system works because he was a part of it. So having people with those types of expertise and experience on this task force is going to be invaluable. So welcome. Governor, how you doing? You know you're sideways, right, Governor?
Thank you,
No,
Vice
oh,
President.
am I? Wait, am I supposed to be like this?
Now you're upside down.
Oh, shit. Excuse me.
One
Hey,
more
you know,
time.
hey, Marshall, like, through Brendan, I just wanted to say, Marshall, you know, it wasn't easy to get Wayne's vote on you, Marshall. So while he's talking all this good stuff now, you know, but we're blessed to have Marshall.
Absolutely.
You started already, Governor. Okay. Starting already.
Thank you for everything I thank you for who you are, Marsh. We're just.
Thank you. And thank you, Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, thank you. I echo the comments of both Freeholder Johnson and Vice President Richardson, and thank you, Mr. Roundtree, for your willingness to serve. And just wanted to also note that you will be serving in the slot that is designated for a representative from a recognized inmate advocacy group. And if you look at your resume and background, you are fully qualified for that spot, and thank you for making the time to do this. I also want to thank you for please, thank you, and also want to thank you for being the first person to ever come before the Freeholder board with the best looking shades that I've seen. So you get a shout out. You get a shout out on the shades as well. No one else on the board can pull that off.
Well, Mr. President. Thank you.
You're looking good. You're looking good. But thanks for all. Freeholders, we have a motion from Freeholder Johnson and a second from Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent, Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next nominee, Mr. William Simmons, is a member in good standing of the New Jersey Criminal Defense Bar and is going to be filling that role as a member of the task force. I'm sure you've seen his resume and is well suited to do that. Mr. Simmons, you're up.
Good afternoon. I wanted to say how honored I am to have been nominated to this really important task force. I don't have to reiterate just how important the work is, and frankly, the task force faces some very complex, very challenging issues. And I think having been a member of the Criminal Defense Bar for now almost 25 years, primarily in Essex County and in Newark, both state and federal, representing defendants, both who have served as inmates in the Essex County Correctional Facility, as well as federal inmates who have served there as well, pre-trial. I feel qualified to be able to address the issues that have arisen, to deal with the stakeholders involved, and to roll up our sleeves and to get to work for the committee.
Thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments?
For you, Mr. President,
Freeholder Johnson.
I just want to welcome you here. I looked at your background, and it's more than a pleasure to have you here with your law background and so forth, because it could help us through a lot of difficult times. So thank you very much for volunteering your time and your energy, because it's going to take a lot of energy for you to help facilitate what's going on here. So thank you very much, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Freeholder Johnson.
Mr. President, if I can just as a fellow member of the bar, I've gotten to know Ruben for a number of years. He's also a sort of a neighbor. So I've known him professionally and personally. I think he's doing an excellent job. He's committed to his craft and he's very, very good at it. Not a bad basketball coach either, but he's a real great addition to this task force.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? I have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second from Freeholder Pomaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you.
Mr. President, the next, congratulations, Mr. Chairman. The next category is a demonstrated corrections expert, and Mr. Eddie Cannon certainly fits that bill to a T, and he's here to address the board. Mr. Cannon.
Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to be here. And I'm very appreciative of being considered for this position. And I believe with my experience and skill set that I could be very helpful to the board and to the task force to be able to accomplish the goals that you have set forth. And I look forward to work with each and every one of you that we can carry out the mission that you set forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments for Mr. Cannon? Hearing and seeing none. Again, Mr. Cannon, thank you for raising your hand to participate and to volunteering your time. We look forward to your contribution to the task force. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a motion for Mr. Cannon's from Freeholder Pomaris and a second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next nominee, excuse me, the next nominee is Mr. Imran Rabbani, and he comes to us with perhaps the most valuable experience in the entire process of formerly incarcerated individual. And Mr. Rabbani, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. President, Madam Clerk, and the Freeholder Board. I'm extremely grateful for the nomination to the task force because there's, to be simply said, there's a lot of work to be done within our criminal justice system. A lot of people mention and highlight the flaws, but there is good and there is potential for good. And I seek to work towards that good. I had a brief stint with law enforcement when I was about 17, and I spent some time in the juvenile facility in Essex County, where I was held in solitary confinement or administration segregation. And that really opened my eyes to what certain things within the criminal justice system can do to an individual. So upon my release, I immediately enrolled in community college, did the best that I could, and was given a full scholarship to NYU, where I completed my political science and applied psychology degree. And so to keep this short, because as Mr. President said, this is going from an afternoon to an evening. And more importantly, the precedent that Essex County is setting, as a freeholder, Seabold said, is important and unique and serves as an example for the entire nation in terms of criminal justice reform. Currently, I am working under former Governor McGreevy. I have the pleasure of working with him and having his guidance. And just to leave off on a good note, something he said to me a few days ago was, I'm glad that I only have about 20 years left on this and then I'm checking out. But I don't think that's the case, and it's up to the young generation, my generation, to carry that baton and move it forward. So I bring my energy, my enthusiasm, my passion to continue this movement for reform.
Thank you. Freeholders, questions or comments? Okay, just to say that every single one of the slots or positions on the task force was debated, and there was a lot of back and forth, and they are all critically important. And this particular slot, which calls for a person to serve who's been formerly incarcerated in the facility itself, I think was critical to many members of the board. And so, one, congratulations on everything you've done in your career, since that point in time in your life. But two, I think there was a hope of many of us, I think I can speak for many of my colleagues, that this individual spot will bring a certain perspective to this work, and help have some of the tough conversations that I think this board is potentially going to have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Freeholders, any additional questions or comments?
I just have a brief comment. You must be working. First of all, welcome and thank you for volunteering. But you must be working under Governor McGreevy. Both of you are sideways.
You're all hard, Wayne.
And don't believe the governor for a minute talking about he's got 20 years left. He's never leaving. It's in his blood, this work.
Amen.
No question. We have a motion from Freeholder Vice President Richardson and a second from Freeholder Seabold. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Seabold.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you and congratulations, and welcome aboard. Thank you. Okay, our next nominee is Reverend Pablo Pizarro, social justice advocate, who will be a part of the task force. And he also has the distinction of serving on the North Civilian Task Force, I believe. So, Reverend Pizarro, you're on.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, Reverend.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you.
So Reverend, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest on the task force, please?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, thank you to all the freeholders, and thank you to our former Governor Jim McGreevey and everyone on this panel. I had the opportunity to sit with you all during the interview, and I expressed my passion in the community as I am I'm an avid lover of community, social justice, and I know a lot of people right now are activists, but you know, I am out there loving on the community, and I continue to love up on them. For those that are the disenfranchised, the marginalized, I explained to you my passion comes from my childhood, being that my mother was a drug addict, was a former inmate, incarcerated, my father as well. And so I just felt the passion of giving back to the community. My mom's been clean for 40 years. It's the reason why I decided to give back to the community, to help those who have been incarcerated. Everybody deserves a second chance. And so that's why I'm here. I want to just serve my county and not just my city, which I've been doing for 16 years. But I just want to join my county in helping in whatever I could.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you. Freeholders, do we have any questions or comments?
Through you, Mr. President.
Sure, Freeholder Johnson.
Reverend Pablo, the work you've done speaks for you. Me being a Newarker myself, I have seen your work. I have felt your work. And I feel that you are definitely going to be instrumental in this task force moving its agenda forward. So I thank you. I thank you more than ever for coming on board with this task force. So thank you, Reverend Pablo.
My pleasure. Thank you, Freeholder Johnson. I appreciate you.
Through you, Mr. President, I also want to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Freeholder Johnson. Pastor Pablo, you're always around. You're always in the community. You're always giving back. You know, we are fortunate to have you be a part of this task force. So welcome and thank you for volunteering something else. I know your wife's probably gonna be mad at you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you,
Never
Freeholder.
seen you. Yeah, but welcome, man.
Pleasure. Thank you for your kind words, sir.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Well, Reverend, I just want to thank you for raising your hand to serve, for your willingness to serve. Also, you know, the work that you do in the community is well known. And also want to let you know that you touch a lot of people also through your social media that you don't even know. So we're in the Gill household. We're followers of you on you know, on your social media feeds, and we always check in to see what you're up to and what you're doing. So thank you for that as well, and for your willingness to continue to serve our county and our community.
Thank you, sir. It's a true honor, and I genuinely really love you all, and I pray for my community all the time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. A motion for resolution number 6 from Freeholder Siebold and a second from Freeholder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And Pastor, can you please pray for Mrs. Gill to put up with all the hours that the freeholder president isn't home?
I sure will. We're in the same boat.
So it's great. It's great that he's looking at your website, but if you could pray for the, would help out on her side of the ledger.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think you're gonna. Based on the last 3 months, I don't think you're gonna have too much pushback to get me out of the house.
That's true.
Mr. Jackson.
We'll move on. Our seventh nominee is an expert in the medical field and will be coming to the task force to present some really impressive credentials. Probably the most impressive is an undergraduate degree, which I can have some interest in myself. Congratulations. She is really just a wonderful representative in the medical field, and I think is going to really bring some incredible insight and expertise to the task force. So our next nominee is Dr. Chris Purnell. You're on, Doctor.
Yes, just unmuting myself. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, freeholders. It is with immense and deep pleasure that I accept this nomination in a sense of gratitude. You know, I am a public health and preventive medicine physician, and I consider myself being a believer and apostle of public health. Public health is a mission-driven field within healthcare, and in particular, I am a health equity doc. So I focus on how injustices, how inequities have further marginalized, disenfranchised, and dehumanized communities, in particular, Black and Brown communities. So wherever there is work where I can lend my skill set, my knowledge base to help perpetuate justice, to help perpetuate anti-racism, I am more than game to do that. I have a special affinity for the incarcerated population. Soon after I made the decision not to continue my training to become a brain surgeon and left that clinical world, one of the first places I went to, I found myself was at Essex County Juvenile Detention Center, and just to learn from those who have come up by hard circumstances, and to say, how can you help fragmented souls become whole again, and do it through health and well-being and population health. So this topic has stayed near and dear to my heart, and the opportunity to offer insights and advocacy around systems, how systems are designed, how to improve systems so that there are not let's say, define winners and losers, but that each person has equal access to have their human rights protected and availed. I'm more than willing to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Purnell. Freeholders, questions or comments?
Through you, Mr. President.
Billy Johnson.
Chris Purnell, I've known you for quite some time. You're a great activist also. But, you know, in reading your resume and background, I got tired of reading. You got so much stuff going on. But it is a pleasure to have you. And my mentee, who I mentored for many years, Dupre Kelly, always speaks about the work that he's been doing and y'all been doing over there with y'all way. So it is definitely a pleasure to have you on this board, especially with this extensive background that you have in the medical field. Because as you know, in our Black and Brown communities, the mental health part of it is the most essential part of it. And I know you can help those that are incarcerated to get them back on track. So thank you very much for raising your hand, as our president says, to take on this Herculean task.
Thank you, Freeholder. I appreciate it.
For you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President.
I too want to commend Dr. Purnell for not just for her evolution and how she continues to evolve. I met her about 10 years ago. She was running for office. Started that didn't work out, but she never gave up. She just stayed vigilant, kept, you know, doing what she needed to do, moving the ball, moving the pendulum, staying involved, and look at you now. You are a shining star, and have been for quite some time in our community. So we are very fortunate to have you on this task force. And you also do something at University Hospital now as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you're always busy.
Multiple jobs.
Yeah. Always busy, always representing, and you're just, like I said, just a shining star. Happy to have you. We couldn't have picked a better person. Thank you.
Truly, truly grateful. Thankful for your words.
And at some point, through the freeholder president, at some point, Chris, I'd love for you to share with the freeholders, maybe at a later point, what you're doing with women who are formerly incarcerated, and how you're really breaking the paradigm and focusing upon their unique changes, because it's a population that's so frequently overlooked in correctional settings. So thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
I have to look forward to hearing more on that. Freeholders, additional questions or comments from Just again, thank you, Dr. Purnell, for wanting us to serve. And I think Freeholder Johnson touched on it. But so many of the issues that I think this committee will have to deal with revolve in some way or another around issues of public health. So your expertise in so many different fields, whether it's behavioral, whether it's your work in the community, whether it's your background, as a doctor, is going to be much needed, and look forward to that contribution for sure. So, so thank you for your willingness to do it, because clearly, if you look at your resume, I don't think you didn't necessarily need one more thing to do for sure. So, but we're grateful that you're willing to take on this among the many things and many roles that you play in our county, in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder President.
Thank you. We have a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second from Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares. Freeholder Ricardo is absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Our final nominee is coming into the task force as a member of the public, and that is, I think, putting her credentials and qualifications quite lightly. She too has a wonderful undergraduate education and also speaks 5 languages, which is incredibly impressive to me. But her background on this issue and dedication and her training will make her a wonderful addition to the task force. Our final nominee is Alexandra de Blasio. Ms. de Blasio, you're up.
Thank you so much. First of all, I've had the privilege of being number 8, so I got to hear everybody before me, and it's truly a great group of people. I am honored to be included among them. I look forward to the task force, to listening, to learning a tremendous amount from fellows on the task force as well as the community, and then doing all the extra research that needs to be done. I know Governor McGreevy is very interested in that. And no, I'm just very grateful and look forward tremendously to learning and then to offering any thoughts that I have towards.
Alessandra, for the benefit of the Freeholder Director and Freeholder President and the Freeholders, could you talk a little bit about your experience with your father and his legal career? No, but and some of the work that you've done in this space.
Sure. So yeah, I started out, well, since I was born, being cross-examined. So my father was one of the greatest trial attorneys in New York, but I think in the United States. And so I spent my youth being questioned about my every move. But then when I was in college and law school, I spent time working with him. And his practice was mostly personal injury, so dealing with plaintiffs, with individuals who were injured. And from him, I sat in on witness interviews and trials. And then I decided not to join him at all in his practice of law. I went on to become a federal prosecutor, but that was a step so that I could become who I now am, which is a federal defense attorney. So I've had about 25 years of involvement in the federal criminal justice system. I had several immigration clients and have tried to touch on as many different aspects of the law as I can. And so that's my father and what I learned from him. My mother was fabulous too. She was a painter and artist.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Blasio. Freeholders, questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. President, this is Freeholder Cooper. I just wanted to commend and thank everyone who stepped up to serve on this very important board. You all come with a very diverse background that will complement one another and to ultimately help us in the administration achieve our goal of why we created this task force to begin with. Also wanted to commend the administration who moved really swiftly looking through all those candidates, and I think you vetted a really good group of people to help move our agenda forward. Phil and Mr. Jackson, good job. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. President, I want to echo what my colleague, Freeholder Cooper, just stated. We have a broad mix of folks, and the talent pool that we have on this task force is incredible. And remember, you guys this is historic. We're doing this without a consent decree. We're doing it on our own. Essex County is first. This is a historical event. Your names will be in the annals of the county forever. You're the first on this task force. And I'm sure each and every one of you will make us proud. So thank you again for serving, stepping up to the plate. We really, really appreciate each and every one of you.
Mr. President, may I add?
Sure, Freeholder Siebel.
Before we vote on the last one, I would like to express my gratitude to our county executive, Joe DiVincenzo, and every other person who worked with him to create this magnificent task force. And since we are first in the country, first in the state, I am really, really proud that the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is making history tonight. And as Freeholder Vice President Wayne Richardson said, we will go down in history, and I am really proud to be part of that fact. Thank you, and thank you to all the people who are willing to serve on this advisory board.
Through you, Mr. President, I just want to say thank you to one other person, who very rarely gets any accolades, but she does a lot of the work behind the scenes. She does all the legal stuff. She puts it together. She makes sure no one gets in trouble, and that's Courtney Gassion. I want to thank you for all that you do. Sometimes you may not think we appreciate it, but we do appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Freeholder. I appreciate that.
And Mr. President, can I just say one concluding remark?
Sure, Governor.
Thanks. By the way, Freeholder Richardson, Courtney's also a pain in the neck, but I'm not saying anything. But I'm kidding. But also, I just want to underscore to the judge how valuable he has been in this whole process, and unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. But then, in addition, it's the Freeholder President. I just want to thank all the freeholders that have been so supportive. I really want to say thank you to everybody who's going to be on this task force, but everybody who submitted their names. As Freeholder Cooper said, I mean, this is really diverse. There was actually disagreement because the names were so good and so robust. So we just ask everybody who's applied to stick with us. And then I'd also like to thank not only the county executive, to Joe, and particularly the chief of staff, but Wayne, I also have got to say thank you to Asmaret, because teaching me how to do a Zoom call was a major work of art. But seriously, this is going to be tremendous. I think we're doing something that, and I shared with both our freeholder president, as I shared with Brendan, as I shared with Phil, that, you know, no one's done this in the state of New Jersey. And so on so many issues in terms of medical protocol, in terms of how we practice and how we provide for whether something as simple as medication assisted treatment, hepatitis, on so many different issues, I believe we're going to be breaking ground. So in terms of the legislative body and the leadership, our county executive, the chief, all of us, and all of the citizens who sincerely want us to do better, both on the I side and, as the freeholder said earlier, in terms of the correctional side of the two houses. This is a shared goal to produce centers of excellence. And last thing, I just also want to say thank you, and the freeholder president knows this, to Phil, who brought, like Rosa knows, all the advocates. Every week we share a call Thursday at 4 o'clock. I think it's the only correctional center I know of the state that does that. We put everything out on the table. We're honest, we're open, what we're succeeding with, what we're not. But by that level of transparency, God willing, we can get to be better so that we treat all those individuals within our jurisdiction humanely and with decency. So I just want to say thank you, Mr. President. I think we're about to start something really exciting, and I think it's going to set a standard throughout the rest of the state. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Governor. Then again, before we move on, freeholders, is there any additional questions or comments? Then I'll wrap it up with a few comments, and then we'll move on our final nominee. But I think, Governor, you actually touched on many of the points that I wanted to make. You know, first and foremost, when this ordinance or this legislation, you know, I mean, it's important to note that I think that, you know, we work very closely together in Essex County, but, you know, the freeholders is a separate independent body of government, and sometimes the administration and the freeholder board, we agree most of the time, and sometimes we don't, and that's fine, and I think that's healthy. But I do want to thank the administration for their openness to when I brought this to them. You know, in response to some issues that we were hearing out there in the community, and they have been a partner on this for some time, and helped shape it, helped contribute to it, and I thank them for their work on it. As a legislator, you know, this is almost as far as I can take this process. You try to craft the legislation the best that you can. And then when that legislation is then put into the real world, so to speak, you hope it achieves the goal that it was set out to achieve. Although I respect every single person that has been nominated, consider them to be many good friends, I'm expecting that the work of this committee is not going to be easy. The work of this committee is going to be challenging. And it should be. I expect this committee to be challenging our county government as an entity, to improve, to do better, and to make sure that we have done everything we can to treat all of the detainees in our facility with the dignity and respect that they deserve. And that's not saying that we're not doing that right now, but it's saying that I still think we have additional work to do. So my hope is that this committee will take those issues on, consider those issues to be very serious, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you in some form on some things that are going to challenge us. You know, my hope is not to create this committee and then to hear that everything's going great, to be quite frank. Thank you. You know, that this is when I stress the word independent, you know, and in response to some of the issues that have been raised. So I, again, at the same time, want to thank Phil, want to thank the administration, Courtney, for your work on this, understanding that they have to balance a series of issues as the administration. but at the same time, we're creating an independent board, and I think they should be and should be commended for supporting that process and supporting the freeholders, not just me, but the freeholders who worked on this, Vice President Richardson, Freeholder Johnson, who put time and energy into creating this, Freeholder Pomaris and Mercado and their roles. So this really, for me, is the way that government is supposed to work, where you have lots of different people with lots of different opinions trying to get to the same goal. And I think we produced a really good ordinance, a really good piece of legislation. And that legislation, I think, has produced some really fine candidates to serve in the roles that we've created, who will hopefully do some really impactful work, to change the betterment of our county and of our community. So I look forward to hearing you in the future, and want you to know, Governor, and all the members of the board, that that as long as I have the honor to serve as the president of the board, I'm committed to this independent task force operating, and will provide whatever you need in order for it to operate successfully and efficiently, as we move forward.
And I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and to be present. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Mr. President, before you go on,
yes.
Phil Elijah, the Chief of Staff, is online. I think we should hear some from him, because he spent countless hours helping put this together also.
I never known Phil to be shy, but I think we should hear from him.
Phil? What happened?
Looks like he's behind the shower door.
Yeah, another call maybe?
I think that's right. I think he is.
Another call. He's on another call. Okay. Gotcha. Well, I thank you for that, Freeholder Johnson, and I really, it was mentioned, but sometimes, as I said, when you look at state government and you look at our federal government, and sometimes I wish those governments could operate the way we do here in Essex County. So folks agree sometimes, sometimes they don't, but we usually get to a good place, and I think that we've done that today. So, and we could have not have done it without Courtney and Phil's help. So Courtney, thank you as well. We have a nomination from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Johnson to close out our final nominee. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano. Freeholder Luciano. Absent. Freeholder Mercado. Absent. Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved. Mr. President, can I make a little housekeeping announcement?
Sure.
I'm going to ask all of our nominees or now members of the board and anyone else that has been on for these resolutions. We need the real estate for other people to join us. So if you would be kind enough to log off, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We've been thrown out of better gin mills. God bless.
Thanks, Governor. Thank you.
Thanks, my friend. God bless.
Okay. While we're doing that, Madam Clerk, let's move to resolution number 52, which is our ICE resolution. I think we have spoken to that, so we're going to move to 52. Freeholders, any questions or comments on resolution number 52?
Yes, I have some comments, Mr. President.
Excuse me, Mr. President, are we going to read this into the record at another time?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we can read it into the record at a later time. Thank you.
I would just like to speak to the resolution. I'm very happy to be part of this resolution that is on the agenda for tonight. I know I had comments at the last meeting about some of the language in the resolution, and I'd like to thank our attorney, Michael Parlavecchio, for working so hard on this resolution to correct much of the language. And now the resolution reads exactly the way I wish that it would read right from the beginning. So I'm very, very happy and very pleased to be part of the sponsor of this resolution tonight. And I'd like to thank everybody who contributed to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Freeholder Siebel. Freeholders, additional questions or comments?
Yes, through you, Mr. President. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to put on the record my support for this resolution. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I too join my colleagues in supporting this resolution. Even though these individuals are detained, we have a responsibility to ensure their health and safety, especially those who do not pose a threat to the community. We're also trying to do all we can to slow down the spread of this deadly virus. And we believe this action is just one small thing that we as freeholders and legislators can do to help. So I definitely support this wholeheartedly, and thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Richardson. Freeholder, additional questions or comments? Just wanted to also say, we heard quite a bit of public testimony on this, and I want to be very clear that Freeholder Siebold's both comments and contributions have helped make this a better resolution. And some of the things that were read into public comment, Freeholder Siebold, we know what your intention was. You did not say anything like that, in my opinion, that would even have suggested that. And I want to thank you, for your work, because I think it made it a better resolution. So thank you, Freeholder Siebold.
And thank you, Mr. President, for your support. I really appreciate it. I think much of what has been said referring to me was totally incorrect. I just wanted to see a more precise and better resolution, and that is just what we have now. So thank you very much for your support.
100%.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I have a statement from Freeholder Mercado who would like it read into the record. May I read it into the record at this time?
Sure.
This statement is from Freeholder Mercado. Good afternoon. Unfortunately, I am unable to participate in today's meeting due to previous obligations. Although I am not present to vote on Resolution 52, which demands that the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, promptly grant the release of all detainees currently detained due solely to their immigration status. I feel compelled to state for the record that I am in support of this resolution. We are in unprecedented times due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and any measure that can assist in significantly slowing the spread of the virus while saving lives must be considered. Releasing the detainees held solely because of their immigration status will not pose an imminent threat to the community. Conversely, it will be beneficial for their health, the health of the staff and other prisoners, and the health of our communities throughout the area. Therefore, I support the resolution. Additionally, I'm in full support of the passage of resolutions 1 through 8, which will complete the process of appointing the initial 8 members to the Essex County Correctional Facility, a civilian task force. The board, the administration, and local advocacy groups have worked tirelessly to put the task force together. I am happy and supportive of the nominees, and I offer my well wishes going forward. Thank you, Freeholder Mercado.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Freeholders, any additional questions or comments?
Mr. President, Carlos Parzer, may I make comments?
Sure, of course.
Thank you. I want to appreciate my colleagues for giving a little bit more time to review. We didn't have a lot of time the last time to review this in advance of the meeting. I'd like to be, if it's not done by acclamation, I'd like to be included as a sponsor as well on this resolution.
Oh, no issue including Freeholder Palmares as a sponsor.
Acknowledged, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure, Freeholder Siebel.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Chief of Staff Phil Elijah for giving me so much information and helping with in terms of the statistics at the jail, because that was really helpful in creating better language for the resolution. And he was really excellent at what he did. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders, any additional questions or comments? I'm actually going to move this resolution and have second from Vice President Richardson. A roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Present, not voting.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're actually going to take resolution number 53, which is another freeholder resolution, Freeholder Johnson. Sorry, Freeholder Johnson, it's a resolution for social justice. Freeholder Johnson.
Through you, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to this resolution. And I would also like to thank you and Vice President Richardson for your support in co-sponsoring the resolution. As you know, it is actually a tragedy and a shame in this day and age that a need for this type of resolution is even necessary. But as the old saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. However, it is time out for this to be normal or someone else's problem. In a short window of time, we had just heard about the murders of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. Then the world watched in horror the abuse and murder of Mr. George Floyd at the hands of those who are there to serve and protect. It was a moment of reckoning for the masses, a realization that this type of abuse can no longer be tolerated anywhere. And the perpetrators of this act and the countless other acts like them, many we don't even hear about, targeting Black and brown people must stop, and more importantly, must be atoned. I know personally for me, as a Black man, my heart hurts because just like me, George Floyd was a father. Just like me, George Floyd was a brother. Just like me, George Floyd was a friend, a person, a human. Reverend Al Sharpton put it so eloquently during the eulogy of George Floyd. This is a new season. We have had enough of police abuse. It is time to change the system of justice, even when our commander-in-chief helps to fuel the negative. But as we all know, 95% of the law enforcement officers in our towns throughout our cities, counties, state, and the country are good quality officers. It's that 5% that is giving them a reputation that we must work with to help get there. We need these officers, the 95%, to not be afraid that if they see something, to say something. So today, I am sponsoring this resolution along with the President, Gill, Vice President Richardson, and I am pushing the agenda forward that change starts in our own community. It starts by promoting sensitivity in our practices here in Essex County. It is amazing how the entire country and the world has responded to this atrocity. And the community needs to know the legislators here join them with our voice as well. I have been so proud of our residents, young and old, who have organized peaceful protests and rallies, and the beauty of the diversity of our collective races of people binding together in solidarity, understanding that Black Lives Matter. This resolution is just the beginning. In summary, we are committed to social justice and will focus on how we can deliver on the promise of good and fair public safety protection to all. So thank you again, Mr. President.
Thank you, Freeholder Johnson. Thank you.
Mr. President?
I see
Mr.
Freeholder
President?
Siebel. Just
Yeah.
before Freeholder Siebel, before I turn the floor to you, I just wanted to see if if Vice President Richardson the other sponsor wanted to make remarks, and then I'll turn the floor to Freeholder Siebel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, I join my colleague Freeholder Johnson and yourself in co-sponsoring this resolution for social justice and, more importantly, for social change. I agree with Freeholder Johnson and all that he has said. I also agree with all that this resolution addresses and suggests. It is unfortunate that it takes a tragedy to evoke change. I fight daily for the rights of my union members, so I know how resistant people are to change, especially when it means the conversation gets a little uncomfortable or the soul searching gets a little uncomfortable. When privilege is put into perspective, sometimes it is difficult to accept the truth so that one's silence is part of the problem. I do not know every system has a breaking point, and just like the notorious knee on the neck, the knee that oppresses us, the knee that denies us entry, the knee that ignores us, the knee that abuses us, there comes a time when that pressure doesn't allow us to breathe, and it needs to get lifted. We have seen this all throughout history with many movements, but just like Freeholder Johnson, this one hits close to home, and I agree, for humanity's sake, and in the memory of all of the nameless, faceless, Black and brown people over the last 400 years that we have lost. This acknowledgement and gesture to pass this resolution, to support this movement, is the very least that we can do. As leaders, it is our responsibility to uphold public safety for all. It is easy to put flowery words on paper, but we have to back them up with action. In our nation's streets across the world and in many other countries, we're hearing the cry and the conscience of the people. On our behalf, and I join them in saying, no justice, no peace. Thank you again for this time and opportunity to co-sponsor this resolution.
Thank you. Freeholder Siebel.
Thank you very much. I have spent my whole life working for social justice. I can't even tell you how many times I marched in Washington on social justice issues. My 10-year-old granddaughter marched in Brooklyn yesterday for Black Lives Matter. I would very much like to be part of this resolution, and perhaps everyone will join and we can have this resolution by acclamation, because it is the right resolution and we all should join in. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Siebel. Freeholder.
President.
Sure. Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolutions 52 and 53 are important resolutions for our body to author and to approve, because they both speak to injustices that unfortunately happen in our country far too much. It is our job as leaders to stand up and speak out when things are not being done the correct way, and especially when it disenfranchise and affect a group of persons solely because of the color of their skin. For too long, a lot of these issues have existed, and I stand with you and the rest of the board to say enough is enough. I support Resolution 52 and 53 because of that. We have to end ICE, and we have to end the treatment of people in our country simply because of the way that they look. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeholder Cooper. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Refer to Freeholder Johnson and Vice President Richardson on whether they would, whether we can do this by acclamation.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Sure, absolutely. Hearing or seeing none, we'll have a motion from Freeholder Johnson and a second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent, Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you. Thank you, Freeholder Johnson and Vice President Richardson for that resolution. Thank you. Moving to resolutions number 9 through 15, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Items 9 through 15 deal with the receipt and disbursement of community service block grant dollars. And Mr. Terrence McCoy is with us to discuss these items.
Good evening, Freeholders. This is Terrence McCoy, and I'm with the Division of Community Action. I'm coming before you to get grant approval to amend our grant dollars from the Community Service Block Grant for continued services to our low-income constituents throughout Essex County. These funds are going to be on top of the current grant that we have already that you approved back in April of 2020 for the amount of $794,259. And we are allocating funds to the 3 CAP agencies that provide those services to the community.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
I don't have any questions or comments on this one.
Mr. McInerney?
Mr. President, I don't have any questions on this one.
Okay, Freeholders, questions or comments?
Mr. President?
Yes, I'm sorry, Freeholder Johnson.
Yes. As we all know, with this pandemic here, and a lot of people losing their jobs, and they can't afford to live their normal life, and with the normal things that we had in place are not going to be enough by the end of the year. And I'm glad that we are moving more monies into these departments because of the fact that we're going to have an overabundance of people applying for these monies, especially coming into 2021. 2021 is when we're going to really feel the effect of this pandemic. So I'm glad that we're moving forward with at least arming them with a little more, because we're going to need more than that coming into 2021. So thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders, any additional questions or comments on resolution number 9? If not, we'll move to resolution number 10. We'll read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Again, Mr. McCoy is here, and Mr. President, just so we're aware, Item 9 is the insertion of the dollars, and items 10 through 12 are disbursement to the agency, but Mr. McCoy is here to go through that for you.
I see, I apologize, those are the individual, just, those are the individual
Subcontracted.
amounts to the, got it. Do we have any questions, freeholders? I'm assuming Mr. Polavecchio, Mr. McInerney, no further questions on 10, 11, and 12?
That's correct.
No, it's the sub-grant agreements that flow from the revenue.
Okay. Freeholders, do we have any additional questions on the sub-grant agreements? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll move to resolution number 13, which we can read into the record at a later time.
Okay, 13. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, resolution 13, 14, and 15 are sub-grantee contracts for COVID-19 stimulus funds that we received from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs to provide said emergency services to relieve the stress that our constituents are going through that were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are looking to help all of our constituents throughout Essex County with homeless prevention services for rental assistance, utility, food, and housing counseling. This is just the first round of money that we are receiving from the state, and we are going to receive more money to help them throughout the 2021 period.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
Mr. President, these items are part of the schedule that I've been keeping, that I was requested to do so with regard to COVID-19 expenditures. All three of these items are included in the 497,209 number. In addition, that's part of a larger grant for $1,420,599, which is yet to be received by the county. There is approximately $100,000 that's included in that amount that goes to administrative expenses to reimburse the county.
Okay. So these were included in the running list or in the list that was sent to the board.
There were a couple lists that I sent to you, Mr. President, first. One was just recently to this afternoon. But there is the $30 million that goes to municipality COVID-19 expenditures, which are separate and distinct from the amount of the county COVID-19 expenditures, which the county's expending, which is a separate schedule. And then we have these federal and state grants that are coming into the county as well. These federal and state grants are what we're seeing on the agenda now with regard to, this would be item number 11, 12, and 13, I'm sorry, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So these are separate and distinct. The objective of these is within the grant documents. But again, there's and that's why I guess these schedules are going to have some meeting at some point in time, because there's various buckets of money coming into the county. Again, the monies that came into the county from the federal government, that 20%, we just allocated $30 million to the municipalities. And then the county's been expending money on COVID-19 expenditures through the reserve account that we set up. And those are being reimbursed right now. At this point, the county's expended in excess of $5 million. And I sent over a expenditure listing by department with regard to those expenditures. And once again, separate state and federal grants that are coming in labeled COVID-19 grants that will help the county more or less in pass-throughs to these not-for-profit agencies that provide the kind of necessary services that those grants are designed to pay for.
Okay. What were the amounts in the terms of the 30 million that we had allocated for direct direct reimbursement to the municipalities? So we distributed money to that. Process has already started. So what are the amounts out of that bucket that have already been distributed, and to who?
I believe there's a list, Mr. President, that I did send over this afternoon to you just before the meeting that has that level of detail. I can access it here if you want me to, but there's a list of every municipality, what they have been reimbursed for at this point in time. So
I can go through that list if you want, Mr. President.
I'm sorry?
Please.
I can go through that list if you want. So far, as you know, we've allocated $30 million. So far, paid or approved for payment, $332,000 to the Township of Belleville, $1.6 million to the Township of Bloomfield, City of East Orange, $22,000, Milburn, $111,000, Newark, which is still pending on that one. I think we actually did the check today, $1,587,000, Nutley, $109,000, and Verona, $320,000.
If I could add, if you could confirm, Mr. Jackson, and it's my understanding that Bloomfield and Verona has already gotten the maximum reimbursement at this point in time that they were allocated?
Correct. Verona's a few dollars shy, but Bloomfield's already up to max.
Okay, thank you.
When we say the max, that was our max. That was the number that we broke the 30 million up by.
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
But we're gonna. I mean, I'm assuming, Mr. Jackson, that they're gonna continue and to evaluate that number, because I mean, I know we used a formula, but it's still a moving target.
I'm not sure what you mean by moving target.
Meaning that the number is arbitrary. We developed this. We developed the metric as to how much out of the 30 million Cedar Grove would be eligible for versus Bloomfield would be eligible for versus Montclair. I'm not questioning. I think it was a sound plan, but I just want to say, when we say the cap, like we set that cap ourselves.
Right. We set a 20% cap, and then allocated that according to the metric that you mentioned. Of course, it's up for reevaluation as we go through and see how dollars get correct.
I mean, I'm happy with the 130 whatever thousand illegal contracts.
I don't know who's speaking right now. We have a caller 19, caller 7, both who are not on mute. I don't know if they're trying to speak on the record and who it is. Could you repeat that, Mr. Jackson? I couldn't hear the answer at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, because what we did was we assigned about 20% of the total to distribute to the municipalities, which was the 30 million. And then we allocated that by the metric that you discussed earlier. Each town has a certain allocation. As Mr. McInerney alluded to earlier, essentially Verona and Bloomfield have already used up their allocation. So in total, we have spent about or issued checks in the amount of $4 million of the $30 million that we have allocated, and we'll continue to evaluate that through the efforts of Mr. Avaleo and Kim Beraldo. Through the government services firm, we'll continue to keep an eye on that and see where it goes. But that's where we are today. So of the $30 million, $4 million have been checked. Already been issued.
Okay. And just the process, we're actually hand delivering those checks to the municipalities?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, that's good. It's glad that we're getting, so folks are getting their information in and that process is working. That's great.
Yes, it's working. And kudos to Anthony Apaleo and Kim Brown-Sparago. They're doing a great job and also to Assam, our CFO, for getting reviewing the requests, getting them done quickly, and then get the checks out. I can say that no county that I know of is getting out the dollars as quickly and put the process in place as quickly as we have in the town. So we really appreciate it to the board and to the administration for getting these much needed dollars.
Thank you. Any additional questions, freeholders? Okay, we have taking resolutions number 9 through 15. We have a motion from Freeholder Johnson and a second from Freeholder Luciano. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Let's move to resolutions number 16 through 18. Mr. Jackson?
Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Mr. President and fellow freeholders. How are you? Number 16 is basically an approval of our 2020 Senior Service Area Plan, which was actually, the insertion was made back in January of this year. This just shows that we sent our report in and that everything was approved and we'll be getting reimbursed for that money that was spent, awarded, and this is 50% of the award. That's all 16 is stated.
You keep going to reform, Mr. Brown.
All right, 17. 17 is $4,750 that we annually receive from the state of New Jersey for our seniors farmers market nutrition program. And basically, in the past, this money has been used for supplies, the nutritionists, etc., for our farmers market. However, this year, there may be, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a change in how we deal with the farmers market, which we'll know on Wednesday, next Wednesday, when we talk to the state. But we're thinking right now that this money, this $4,750, may have to be used for postage because the vouchers, the applications and vouchers have to be mailed instead of the way we used to do it. But right now, we're not certain of that until we have our meeting next week with the state. Now, number 18 is extra money that we receive from the state, emergency money for our Meals on Wheels program and also our congregate sites, which had to close. So since our congregate sites had to close, we have taken that list and we are actually delivering meals to those same clients, customers, if you will, so that they don't miss out on the congregate meals. And the state was kind enough to give us this extra $653,421 for our 3 agencies that provide meals, which would be Focus, JCC, and Krill.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
Yes, Mr. Brown, on resolution 16, there was a schedule that was in the documentation that indicated that the 100% of the projected budget for all of these expenditures was $6,995,321. of which that Resolution 18-653-421 is part of, as well as the 5,026,348, which is really involved with resolution number 16. Is there still money due? Because when I subtract those two amounts, resolution 16's amount and resolutions 18's amount out, as well as the county match of 154,000, I'm still looking for like $1,315,000. Are there additional monies that are included in the 100% projected budget that the county is going to receive in the future?
Yes, this, if you look on the, I believe in the resolution, it states that this is only approximately 50% or 28% rather of our award information, our awardee that we will receive from the state. This is not 100%.
Okay, and I understand that these are different amounts too. There's, when reading the resolution, it's 50%, I think, of the federal, 100% of the state, and 27% of something else, I don't recall. So it's
right now that
a little different funding coming in.
Right, that 653,000 is actually, we put it in our total, but that is extra money that the state has given us in an emergency act, because we said that we would have to change. We didn't want to lose out on the elderly that were coming to our congregate meals. So they awarded each county a certain amount of money, and that was our amount, the 653,000.
That was as a direct result of a response to the COVID-19 virus?
Yes.
Okay, so that's something else that I think the freeholders, what we'll do is we'll keep track of that, as well as funds from the state in terms of their response to COVID-19.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Nothing to add to that.
Freeholders, questions or comments? We have a motion from Freeholder Luciano and a second from Freeholder Pomaris. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebel. Freeholder Sebel, you're on mute.
Yes. Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomaris.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado is absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolution number 19, read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson?
Mr. President, item 19 from the Department of Economic Training and Development, Division of Housing and Community Development. This is a submission of our 2020 through 2024 5-year consolidated plan and a 2021 year action plan to the U.S. Department of HUD. It entails $5,470,000 of CDBG money, $456,588 in ESG money, and $1,209,827 in home grants for the projects that are on that you have attached to the back of this item, part of the decision memo. The $5 million, this actually involves all towns in Essex County save for Newark, East Orange, Bloomfield, and Irvington, because they do their own programs. So this is submitting a plan that will allow us to receive these dollars.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
Excuse me, I don't have any questions on this.
Mr. Parlavecchio?
I don't have any questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments? Okay, I have a mover from Freeholder Palmaris and a second from Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Palmares.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, moving to resolution number 20. We can read it into the record at a later time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 20 is from our Department of Health and Rehabilitation. It's regarding a county option hospital fee, a pilot fee program. Director Del Gaudio and the vendor, Mr. Garant, are here to review this item with you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Frank Del Gaudio, Director, Division in Health and Rehabilitation. This contract we're bringing before the board today was in response to an RFP that we had put out back in April, looking for a vendor to assist the county with implementation, actually development and implementation of this hospital fee program. What happened back in 2018, the state legislature passed an act to enable, it's a pilot program to enable the 7 largest counties in the state, well, 7 counties in the state, an opportunity to obtain and secure more Medicaid funding, especially for our urban hospital setting. So the whole purpose of this is to get more Medicaid dollars to our hospitals in the county, at the same time enhance these hospitals to provide more services for low-income residents. So we put out the RFP. We received 3 responses, and Myers and Stauffer were selected. And we have the vendor, Tim Garant. The representative is on the line for any questions.
The vendor like to add anything?
This is Tim Garant with Myers and Stauffer. I really do appreciate the opportunity to join you all this evening. We are looking forward to working with you on this important program. I would echo what Frank said a few minutes ago. These programs can be very useful and are used nationally to leverage local funding in order to draw down additional Medicaid dollars. We look forward to working with you on this important project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Mr. Parlavecchio?
Just a quick question for Mr. Del Gaudio. Frank, I heard what you said about this being relatively recent legislation. I presume this is the first time the county is using this type of service? The first time we need this service?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's a completely new program, or is it just a new version of something that existed?
The program in New Jersey was really never implemented, but I know other states have taken advantage, other counties throughout the country have taken advantage of this program with great success. And it's just, another thing when you see about bringing more money back to the state of New Jersey, this is one of the ways that we can do that. So it is a new program here. I know other counties have gone out and have awarded contracts, but they haven't gotten off the ground yet. Now, we have the most hospitals in the state in Essex County. There are 9 that can participate, that are eligible to participate in this program. So,
sounds good. Thank you.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I have a motion from Vice President Richardson and a second from Freeholder Siebel. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomarez,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado absent, Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you. Moving to resolution number 21, Ms. Jackson.
Number 21 is a contract award to Asuncio Brothers Incorporated to provide for 9 traffic signals and roadway improvements at various locations in the county. Mr. Asif Mohammed from DPW and Mr. McIntyre from Asuncio are here to address this item. Are they there?
Yeah, this is, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
This is Rich McIntyre with the Asuncio Brothers. How you doing? This is Rich McIntyre, Asuncio Brothers. This is actually the 5th project we're doing with you, or actually 6th. We're currently working on your 5th. As far as everything we've done, you know, with doing everything with you guys, we've successfully completed the previous 4 projects and are working towards completion of the 5th project. We've been in business for 60 years, and yeah, for everything that we've done, I believe that everything has gone smoothly with everything with the county, and we definitely look forward to working on this project with everybody.
Asif, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, they have work. They are right now. They are working on Park Avenue project. That's a 5th project. In the past, they have done Lyons Avenue Project 1, Lyons Avenue Project 2, Chancellor Avenue Project 1, and Chancellor Avenue Project 2. So this one, the 9 traffic signal along county roads in various locations, that will be their 6th. And they are on time usually, and there are all the traffic signals. Their subcontractor, they organize a good team, and so far so good. We don't have any problem.
Thank you. And I just would add too that the company has 6 workers that reside in Essex County. That number may go up as they get workers from the Union Hall. They currently have about 40 employees total. Of their 40 employees, 30% of them are minorities. They're a full union contractor and pay full union wages.
Through you, Mr. President. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, please.
So you said, so it's a union shop?
Yes, we're a full union shop.
Okay, so when Mr. Jackson, you say minority, so 30% minority, what's that mean? They have 30% women?
I let Mr. McIntyre address that.
Minority breakdown. What do you, since you referenced it, could you give me a little more detail?
I will let Mr.
We have 30.
McIntyre.
Okay. Yeah. We have like 30%. They are I believe they're Latinos. And then we have probably we have a couple of African Americans. No, the only women that we have right now are currently working in the office. All of our employees we actually have to hire through our union halls. So whatever they give us, you know, we ask for laborers or i.e. carpenters, or when they send us whatever they have.
So what labor unions are you working with?
We employ carpenters, the carpenters union, operating engineers, and the laborers, the heavy highway laborers union. But at times we also hire, 472. And we do at times hire iron workers, usually local 11, to do our rebar work on other projects that we do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President.
Yes, Freeholder Palmaris.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jackson, at some point, can you have someone from engineering send me the list of the 9 various intersections that are not described here?
Freeholder, they were sent over.
Okay, because I didn't have it in the backup material. Where would I find that?
They should be on the backup material, but I will just give you quickly, Franklin Avenue in Geralman and Belleville, Franklin Avenue and Mill Street in Belleville, Springfield and North Maple in Irvington, Springfield and Avon in Irvington, Bloomfield Avenue at the Municipal Plaza in Bloomfield, Bloomfield Avenue and Grove Street, Bloomfield, Broadway and Kearney Street, Newark, Broadway and Carteret Street in Newark, Valley Street and South Pearson and Maplewood. But we'll resend the list to you, Freeholder, so you'll have it.
I thank you, sir, and I appreciate it. And I also want to thank the administration for, in particular, Bloomfield Avenue and Grove Street. We've had fatalities there. It's a very dangerous intersection, and I know that it is very important to the mayor and council of Bloomfield because of the nature of really bad accidents there. So we're grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, just make a note to get to, yes, send directly.
Additional questions? Mr. Palavecchio or Ms. McInerney?
Just, Mr. President, just that the entire amount of these funds come from the Federal Highway Administration, and so they're federal grant funds that are administered by the New Jersey DOT. I don't see any county match here whatsoever.
Okay.
That is correct.
President, I was just going to add that there were 4 bidders submitted for this project, and this vendor is the lowest responsible bidder.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, will all these, for the record, all these projects will be done in compliance with the county's complete streets policy?
Yes, sir. That's a big aspect of it. And I should note that the last 3 that I mentioned will also get new signals.
Okay. Yeah, these are great opportunities to put the policy into action on these projects, both for safety, as Freeholder Palmaris mentioned, and also for potential economic development as well.
Yes, sir.
So I look forward to seeing what these end up looking like. Any additional questions or comments, Freeholders? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I have a motion from Freeholder Siebold and a second from Freeholder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Palmaris,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Siebold,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. On Resolution 22 has been withdrawn by the administration. We're moving to resolutions 23 through 25, which we can read into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, this is authorizing the adoption of the 2020 Essex County All Hazard Mitigation Plan through the Office of the Sheriff. This plan is updated every 5 years, and it's a coalition of Essex County jurisdictions to make sure that we have consistent strategies among the 22 municipalities. And this is a proactive mitigation plan for hazards to eliminate long-term risk to life and property.
Okay. Let's take 24 and 25.
Oh, 24, okay. Item 24 is a budget insertion in the amount of $280,000. This is going to provide to the, from the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security. This will provide some much needed dollars to implement the National Incident Management System and Natural Response Framework and National Infrastructure Protection Plan. Again, you have a list of projects here for that, and there's no county match. Item 24, another budget insertion from the Office of Homeland Security in the amount of $421,931.50 through the Office of the Sheriff. This will enable us to implement projects which will continue to build, maintain, and sustain the county's capability to protect and to respond to incidents of terrorism. The use of funds will provide for special equipment, information, intelligence sharing, target hardening, to reduce our vulnerability against attacks and training, and this one has no county match either.
Okay, Mr. McInerney.
I'm sorry, I have no question on these.
Okay, Parlavecchio.
No questions, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I could, one
Sure.
second. Back on resolution 18, Mr. Jackson, for that grant for the 653,000 that referred to the coronavirus response. It said that there's 3 entities, Focus, JCC, and Chiril, that are going to get additional funds. I don't know if those contracts are going to come back to us or anything, but can I get the breakout of how that money's going to go? That 653 is going to be divided among those 3 organizations, just so it helps me.
Yes, sir.
Funds. All right, thank you.
Okay. Freeholders, additional questions or comments? So mover for 23 through 25, moved by Freeholder Cooper and second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel,
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson,
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares,
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano,
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson,
Yes.
Freeholder Graham,
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper,
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Moving to resolutions 26 through 51.
Mr. President, may I say something?
Sure.
All right, for resolutions 26 through 45, I would very much like to be included. Perhaps it should be by acclamation. One of the people listed is Joe Suriano, who is a very good friend of mine. We taught together for 30 years. Unfortunately, he had the coronavirus. He healed, he was released from the hospital. He went home, had a heart attack, and died. He and I were very close, and at one time, I honored him at one of the Freeholder meetings. The other person I knew very, very well was Mayor Tom Cook. I knew him for years, and at one time I was invited to a barbecue in his backyard, and I knew him for so many years, and I would very much like to be included in these resolutions in memoriam, and perhaps the others would like to join in acclamation. Thank you.
No problem. No problem at all. Any additional questions or comments? Freeholders on 26 through
45. Will it be an acclamation?
I was actually going to do 26 through 51 altogether, unless there was any. Yeah, so 26 through 40, as Freeholder, 26 to 45 will be through acclamation.
You got that?
And can we take 46 through 51 as well?
49, where we're honoring Robert Jackson, is already by acclamation. So that is just so wonderful. And of course, I'm doing Resolution 51 for LGBT Pride Month, and I'd be happy to have everyone join me. And whatever else you want to do with it is fine with me.
Okay. Yeah, so let's do, thank you, Freeholder Siebel, for flagging Resolution 49 for Mayor Jackson. This will, we wanted to get this on the agenda for tonight. I know, well, I'm not sure if you're still going to be in office past July 1st or not. I guess we don't know yet. What happened? Assuming I don't think we have another meeting.
Somebody else will be there, Mr. President. I'm not sure who, but I got funny feeling.
All right.
Was it decided today, Mayor? I think it was in court today.
Kind of. It was this. He delayed the decision and said that, but that the reorg could go on. So
okay.
I presume that means, you know, at some point he could change things, but he did not stop the reorganization.
Thank you.
But I have no issue, and I would have taken those by acclamation. And I just wanted to, before we take the vote, I did just want to say about the resolution, and I know there'll be other opportunities, hopefully, to speak about this again. But the resolution honoring Mayor Jackson, those of us who know the mayor, and all of us have worked closely with him, he does not seek the spotlight and does not seek to be recognized in that way. That's just not his style. But I think this resolution is important to recognize his 8 years of service to the township of Montclair. For those of us who live in the community day in and day out, this township was in a really rocky place 8 years ago, both in terms of our finances, in terms of the governing body and how they were getting along, in terms of managing our development, in terms of our public schools. And Mayor Jackson, I'm going to steal Freeholder Siebel's word here and say has done a wonderful job. I agree, has done a wonderful job leading our town for the last 8 years. And I know I can speak on behalf of many that we understand, but we're disappointed to see that he didn't want to continue leading this community, because Montclair from now to 8 years ago is a very different place, and all for the better. Particularly, again, our finances are, the fiscal record is tremendous. Managing the development within our community and balancing that with protecting what we all know and love about the town was done masterfully by you, Mayor. And just your what I would call unassuming leadership style was perfect for our community, where everyone thinks, every single individual, you can't get three people to agree on what time it is in Montclair, nonetheless, nonetheless get real consensus. So just thank you, but as a resident of the town, just thank you for what you've done and what you've accomplished. And we're going to miss you. I know I'm lucky that we're still going to be able to work together, but we're going to miss you in that role.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and members of the board. It's been an honor for me to serve my hometown, but I'm very, very fortunate to have citizens like President Gill, who I rely on tremendously for advice and leadership, and it's made my job there so much easier and so much more enjoyable. I will leave office feeling very, very good about where we've come. I plan on behaving myself while I'm out on parole, and hopefully not get brought back in, just watch from afar. But I'm really so happy to have, I think, made a difference, and with the help of my colleagues and all the great employees we have in the township, and hopefully we're off to bigger and better things. under the new regime. So thank you so much, members of the board, and really appreciate it. It's humbling to get this, and thank you so much.
If I might add something, Mr. President,
Sure.
we should have more than a commendation on the agenda, but Robert Jackson certainly deserves a framed resolution.
Thank you, Freeholder.
No
Thank you.
question.
Through you, Mr. President, I'll make sure he gets a frame,
Yeah.
you know, especially that huge gold one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Then he can
Mr.
always look at it and remember us.
Mr. President, if I may add, Mr. Jackson, as my neighboring mayor, along with Mayor Venezia, were kind enough last year to say very kind words on my behalf when I was honored on Hispanic Heritage. I think it's only appropriate that I return the favor because he's earned it. He leaves behind a council in excellent shape. The town has done phenomenal work, as you very well know, Mr. President. He left it good, and I believe that there was a zero municipal tax increase, and that's the equivalent of dropping the mic. So it's a good time to walk out on the high note. We will miss you because I know that our towns work very well together. Neighboring towns work very well together, and we certainly know we'll miss you in that capacity. But we're here at the county. We're very lucky to have you still at the helm of the administration, you know, day to day here, and we're very proud of that. So, and we're very fortunate. So, we wish you the best in your retirement of mayor of Montclair, and nothing but the best for you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Through you, Mr. President, I also like to echo the comments of my colleagues. We as legislators and elected officials, we aspire to make people's lives better and to leave things better than how we found them. For all intents and purposes, Mr. Jackson, Mayor Jackson, you've done that. You know, never heard a bad thing said about you. And so kudos to you, and you left on top. You left Montclair better than how you found it, and it's striving. And sometimes we don't know when to get out, man. I don't know how you knew, but I got to pick your brain how you knew when it was time to go. We need to talk. I want to make sure I don't stay too long. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Okay. Thank you, Freeholders. With that, 26 through 51, we have a motion from Freeholder Graham and a second from Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to reports of boards, committees, legislative reports, written communication, unfinished business, new business. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move to the public comment session on non-agenda items. However, since we're meeting remotely, the public has had the opportunity to submit these comments and questions for consideration. Madam Clerk, please state the name of the constituents, identify the topic, and you can read their comment or question into the record, and we will respond to them in writing.
Okay, Mr. President, we have just two comments for this segment. The first comment was submitted by Aurora Bombach of Montclair. Hello, my name is Aurora Bombach. I am from Montclair, New Jersey, and currently reside in New York City, New York. I'm emailing for you to end your contract with ICE and the jail. The next comment was submitted by Joseph Naleth of West Orange Youth Caucus. Hi, my name is Joseph Naleth, and I am asking this question on behalf of the West Orange Youth Caucus. As you may have heard, we organized Black Lives Matter rally in West Orange this last Saturday with about 3,000 people in attendance. We presented the following petition to our town council, and it currently has over 6,000 signatures, including those of the mayor and the chief of police. A petition to the West Orange Town Council. We, the people of West Orange, New Jersey, condemn the murders of George Floyd, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, caused by the systemic failure of policing. In light of racial injustice across the nation, we desire to take reasonable and tangible proactive action at the municipal level to ensure that such a tragedy will never occur in our multi-ethnic community. While our town's use of force statistics are not the worst in the state, we still have a long way to go. Based on population, a Black person is 173% more likely to have force used on them than a white person. Based on arrests, a Black person is 29% more likely to have force used on them than a white person. Source: these numbers must fall to zero in order for the justice to be served. Today, June 6, 2020, we approach the town hall in peace to civilly demand the following. 1, that the town pass a local ordinance banning the use of knee and chokeholds by police, because this unnecessary use of force has the potential to asphyxiate and kill its victims. 2, that the town pass a local ordinance banning the use of tear gas on crowds, because tear gas has been banned in international conflict since 1993 by the Chemical Weapons Convention. 3, that the town council pass a local ordinance banning the use of rubber bullets on crowds, because rubber bullets are unnecessarily harmful and can cause death. 4, that the town council pass a local ordinance requiring a body cam on all active duty West Orange police officers on parole to ensure transparency and accountability in policing. 5, that the town council revise or repeal 4-12.2b of the municipal code, which reads, no person shall loiter in public place in such a manner as to create or cause or to be created any disturbance or annoyance to the comfort and repose of any person, provided that that disturbance or annoyance would be a disturbance or annoyance to the comfort and repose of a reasonable person. Because the subjective language of this ordinance enables racial profiling. 6, that the town council pass a local ordinance establishing an independent civilian review board consisting of community members that has the following powers. A, make recommendations and suggestions about police protocol to the town council and police department. B, review and make suggestions to alter the existing use of force continuum. C, oversee internal affairs investigation. D, receive and investigate complaints of excessive force, abuse of power, obstruction of justice, and racial profiling. E, to have discretion over the publication of body cam video in the aftermath of a heinous case of police injustice occurring in West Orange. F, issue subpoenas. G, participate in police union contracts renegotiation. H, at least one member of the board must be a youth representative under the age of 18. 7, that the town council, mayor, and chief of police sign a commitment to actively combat racial injustice while carrying out their duties of office. Could these demands be applied at a county level so that the sheriff's department could be held to the same standards of accountability? Thank you. Mr. President, that includes our public comment.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just wanted to recognize that the group Faith in New Jersey, which many of the freeholders have met with, submitted a statement in support of the resolution Just want to make sure that that's included and read into the record as well, Madam Clerk.
Will do.
I think it might have came in at just after 12, but we would like that to be read into the record.
I recognize that, Mr. President, it came in close to 2 o'clock, and it's very hard for us to manage.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to make sure that you received it and that it's read into the record as in support of the resolution.
Will we get a copy of it, Mr. President?
Please, yeah, the clerk should distribute it as well.
Thank you.
Freeholders, any additional comments you would like to make?
Mr. President?
Sure, Freeholder Johnson.
First of all, I want to thank all my colleagues for joining in support of that resolution, because as you know, I have been asked on many occasions, okay, well, what are y'all doing from the freeholders? What are the freeholders doing here in Essex County to identify with what is going on in communities? And like I've had to explain to some of them, we haven't had it going on in the Essex County for a while. Not to say we haven't in the past, but we are feeling this at heart. And I knew most of the freeholders were, because we have had conversations in reference to this. And I'm just glad that everybody is signing on, and we're going on this on acclamation, because I think this will be very important to our constituents in the County of Essex. So thank you to all my colleagues who wanted to join in. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Bill Johnson. One of the, Madam Clerk, one of the things that would like to follow up on is that and it was actually acknowledged in one of the things that was just read into the record from the young student from West Orange, but the NAACP has provided a series of reforms, and those reforms were just acknowledged in the email we received from the student from West Orange. And what I'd like to do is work with our prosecutor to see where the municipal departments in our county are on those issues, and then talk to the board about some potentially looking at implementing potentially some of that policy if we might already. So this is without doing any work, so please accept this. There's more work to be done on it, but there's a series of recommendations that we have all received, via email from the NAACP about certain recommendations that law enforcement should be following, and I think it's worth the conversation.
Mr. President?
Yep, Freeholder Siebel.
The Attorney General has already put forth many of those recommendations.
Okay. Got
Mr. President, I will follow up.
Very good.
Thank you.
Freeholders, any additional questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Motion.
Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.